Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Hi. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're doing well. Is this thing on? Is my damn my stream settings and my analytics are telling me two different things? Yes or no? Yes or no? Bro, it's gonna be fun. We got this. Okay, we got this. Pisco will be here in about 5 minutes. Okay, and we got some interesting challengers lined up, but it is an open type of deal. So if you are out there and you're watching this and you're like, man, I really have a problem with this take that Pisco has, and I really don't like it, and I wish I had a chance to come and really just talk to him about it, okay? You absolutely can do that. Okay, and I'm going to pin the Discord link. Give me a second. I'm going to pin the Discord link. So remember, gang, just click that button, accept the rules. It'll be like my little face emoji in the rule page, right? You just click on that. Then you can jump backstage, and I'll pull you on, and you can talk to Pisco about whatever you like. Did you guys like yesterday's show? I've gotten a lot of good feedback from that. A lot of people seem to enjoy that one. So I hope you guys liked it at least. Did you stop beating your wife yet? Yes or no? I moved on to beating yours. Okay. Yeah, yesterday was excellent content, I feel. Excellent content. Hell, Friday was excellent content too. I've had some really good shows lately. I not to toot my own horn too much, but this year's off to a really good start for me. Great guests, great people, great just ambiance too. I know. Look, I'm changing my background soon, okay? I'm changing my background. We'll get that done. Tonight, Decepticon, sorry. Tonight is Pisco versus the world. So there's probably be a variety of things that people have issues with Pisco with that they can come on, they could talk to him about it. Riz, what the fuck says, do you find it hard finding right-wing guests? Past a certain size, yes. I can get big, it's difficult. I can get pretty big left-wing names, and I always have an overabundance of Democrats and left-wingers willing to come on my show. Like, almost always, the thing I have trouble filling is the right-wing slots. I have a few, like, regulars that are really good about it, but, like, do you guys want to see Lactoid every day on my show? Okay. I like Lactoid, to be clear. I think he's great, but every day, we need some variety, okay? I've opened up. We've got a little bit more, but yeah, we're gonna get in there. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna discuss it. It'll be fun. Oh, and I watched. I was watching before this. I was watching a little bit of Sitch and Adam versus Hutch. I don't know if you guys saw that one. It's over now, right? So, but you can catch the VOD, I'm sure, when they get that up. It was interesting. I was switching between the chats. Between the Sitch and Adam chat and the Hutch chat, just to see the various chatters' responses to things. And it was, I bet you could predict exactly how it was, actually. I think I don't even have to tell you. On the Sitch and Adam side, Hutch was dishonest, a liar, and wrong on everything. On the Hutch side, Sitch and Adam were dishonest, liars, and wrong about everything. And there was no middle ground. There's very few people in one chat or the other that were being like, actually, Hutch has made a good point, or actually, Sitch is actually correct here, or anything like that. Not a damn message like that I saw. So it should be fun. I also am going on Sitch and Adam on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, so in the afternoon. So I don't know if any of you will show up, but I'll be going on to discuss ICE anonymity and also the Renee Good situation, right? So if you enjoyed my performance yesterday when I was yelling at Jebdan, you're gonna be in for a treat. So it's gonna be fun. Now, I think that like this idea that we're okay with agents of the state not carrying ID, right? Not identifying themselves, not having a warrant, being entirely masked, and just going around trying to do law enforcement, quote unquote, against citizens is insane to me that we accept that. Without public accountability and giving anonymity to these people, how are you supposed to hold them accountable? Like, for example, if you're walking down the street, a couple ICE agents come up to you and they violate your rights. Maybe they punch you in the face or something, right? They push you on the ground unprovoked, anything. And you call up their superior officers and be like, "Hey, some of your agents came and just fucking abused me, bro." And they're like, "What do they look like?" They were wearing masks. Well, what's their badge number? They didn't have any. Like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do in that situation, right? Anonymity means lack of accountability, and that creates a huge amounts of problems. We have many states in this union of ours, the great American Union of States, require officers to have badge numbers and all that. But guest of honors here, let's bring him on. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. You're live, by the way.
Yo, hang on a second. Just let me fix my shit real quick.
Okay,
but thank
yeah,
you so
do
much,
your
Wick.
thing.
Just one moment.
Do your thing. I was telling him about the Sitch and Adam versus Hutch thing I saw today.
How'd that go? Did you watch it?
I watched some of it. I didn't catch all of it. Like, I came in pretty late. It was interesting though. I was bouncing between the chats just to see how the public was taking it and how people liked it. And you could probably guess everyone on the Sitch and Adam chat was like, "Hutch is a liar. He's terrible. We hate him. He's dishonest." And everyone on the Hutch side of the chat was like, "Those Sitch and Adam goons, they're being crazy," and things like that. And yeah. So
Yeah, I'm not sure if you know, but Sitch and Adam and I, we have some history. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Adam hates you, bro.
Yeah, what is up with that?
I don't know. I'm going on there Thursday, so that'll be fun. I'm going on to talk about anonymity when it comes to ICE. And
and what's your take on that?
Well, when you give masked agents that don't have to ID themselves, that don't have badges, that don't have to have warrants to go around and do police work, quote unquote, it's never going to end well. If they violate your rights, or if you say you're walking down the street and one of them pushes you over and you want to report them to their officers, what are you going to say? Like, "Okay, officer, one of your ICE agents came and violated violated the law or violated one of his training things." And he's like, "Okay, what did he look like?" "Well, he had a mask." Okay, what was his badge number?" He doesn't have one. It just makes it really hard to hold them accountable, and then they're behaving accordingly, as we're seeing in Minnesota.
So you think that the additional risk that people are claiming isn't enough for you to overcome the policy goals that you've just sort of laid out?
Of course not. Obviously, there's going to be risk of people being doxxed, people being harassed, things like that. However, I don't think it overrides the duty that I think agents of the state have, because they have so much responsibility and power to do that. For example, in the military, we had to wear our name badges and things like. We had to wear our uniform so people could identify us, because, again, we can't just go around in plain clothes like Hamas or something and just do shit. It's just not appropriate. I don't know.
I think I agree with you, Wick.
I know.
I think we're aligned on that.
We can't fight about this, right? Like, I'm sure we can find something, but that's not what we're doing tonight. So why don't we tell our audiences here what we are doing tonight? Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Pisco has graciously acquiesced to coming onto my show and to taking on all comers. So if you have an issue with take that Pisco has, with something you've seen him say or do, something that bothers you about him, you can jump backstage, and I got the link into my Discord pinned in my YouTube chat. You can jump backstage, we'll pull you in, and you can have at him, okay? And we'll keep you on till you're boring, then we'll throw you away. But it'll be fun. Why don't you give us some of your hotter takes? Maybe get the blood flowing.
Oh, sure. Sure, I think that the H3 lawsuit is unjustified in terms of its ethics. even though I think it's legally strong. I think that Hassan was the victim of viewpoint discrimination when it comes to his rescinding of global entry in March of 2025.
Okay.
I think that Joe Biden's pardoning of his son is corrupt. I think that Merrick Garland did a decent job as Attorney General, and I don't blame him for it falling through. That is the case against Trump, the criminal one, the Jack Smith indictment. What else? Let me think. I think that Chuck Schumer should step down from leadership.
Like I got some issues right here, but go ahead. Yeah, please.
It gets the blood pumping. Let me think of other things that trigger people. I think that in general, people are a little bit unhinged regarding criticism of their own side sometimes. Sometimes I think it's warranted. Let me think of other shit. I think that the attacks on Venezuela are unjustified and illegal. I think that our intervention in Iran is unjustified and illegal. So yeah, those are a bunch of takes that I know a lot of normie libs disagree with, and then I'm sure all the conservatives have tons of stuff to talk to me about regarding Trump and the administration.
Yeah, I tried to get Good Logic to come on and talk to you about the ICE shooting because I know you guys disagree.
Oh yeah,
right.
I think the ICE shooting is murder. I think that the strikes on the drug boats from Venezuela are murder. Those are all kind of like ripe for argumentation. Yeah, man, like a lot of hot takes. I think though that if you think about it a little bit, the takes all make sense. They all are grounded in a coherent system of thought and through lines that are predictable in many respects. That if you know something with my values, you can more or less predict where I'm going to fall on an issue. Not perfectly all the time. I think people should still surprise you every now and then, but it's not like it's terribly difficult to see where I'm coming from like a ideological perspective.
Consistent, in other words.
I like to think I try to be consistent, and when I notice inconsistencies, I try to correct them.
I respect that, and I think that's probably a good thing. We got backstage is filling up, so without further ado, I'll bring them in, and I'll try to bring in the order they come, but some of you get here like.
You're not going to be able to do that perfectly, so it's going to be on Wick's discretion, I'm afraid. And if you have more clout, my guess is Wick will bring you on first.
Of course. If we got like someone huge coming up, sorry, they get to skip the line. That's just how this works. Enrique, hello, welcome.
Hello.
Enrique Tario?
No. I'm not that one. So, is this debate only about ICE shooting?
No, it's whatever you want to
debate about anything. Okay, so I've been watching you. I'm sorry, my English is not very good, so I will try to make myself clear. So I have watched all your ethnic line coverage, and I think that you haven't mentioned anything about your own. Because I feel like a lot of it comes from spite, because he called you Mike from Pierre. And anytime this is mentioned, I don't feel like you address it.
I think I have addressed it. I've said that among the reasons why I've taken interest in this case is A, because of the pushback, B, because of the overwhelming consensus, and I think sort of just desire to have this muscle memory inform the decision from the perspective of like your club and your side. And then I've been open that like number 3 is because he called me Mike from PA, and by the same token that he's justified on your view to go after people who have attacked him personally. I think that would justify me, and I've been open about that. In fact, I'm the one who brings it up, right? I'm the one who tweets that he did that, and so in what sense can you possibly claim that I don't address it or am not upfront about it? That's unjustified what you just implied, right?
I mean, have you tweeted? You say you tweeted about it?
Yeah, I'm the one who brings it up, and so in what sense am I hiding it or not addressing it?
Hey, I don't think you are hiding per se. I just think like this is the main topic on the DDG Destiny subreddit. That this is the main topic they talk about. That you are just mad.
Well, that's not true. I mean, you don't agree with that, right? It's not just because of that.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I agree, but it's just something that most of people are like it's circulating.
Yeah, a lot of people say lies about me and say things that aren't true. For example, I mean, I'm not saying that you lied, but at the start, it was your contention that I haven't addressed the Mike from PA thing. That wasn't true when you said that, right?
I learned that it's not true from you right now.
Cool.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes.
So people will say things like, "Oh, it's just because of this," or "He's motivated at just because of spite." I'm not at all dishonest or not forthcoming with the fact that part of it is spite motivated, for sure, but it's not all of it. And crucially, I think there is a part of it that's motivated by me observing the kind of group mentality, group thinking, from a community that otherwise, I think, tries to have a more consistent frame of reference and ideological perspective on these matters.
I
Please
have
say
I have a question on
okay.
this real quick, actually, for you,
Yeah.
Pisco. If it weren't for the comments comparing you to Mike from PA, do you think you'd bring it up as much?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, fair enough.
And to be honest, I don't. There are times in which I talk about it more, like when news about it comes up. It doesn't take up a large percentage of what I do, but yes. And my initial take was just my reaction to the Ethan announcement video and the filings, and that happened before anything he said anything about me. And so I think that I maybe would be like less. My tone might shift if that hadn't happened. I'm open about that, but definitely, I think I still would be covering it, to the extent that it was relevant. Because I think overwhelmingly, the reason I'm doing it is because of the pushback, which would exist regardless of whether Ethan said one thing or the other.
Anything else for our friend
Yeah,
Pisco here?
I
One
was
more
looking
thing, and
at
then we'll
the
cycle
yeah,
back
but
around.
not one more thing yet. I was looking at your Twitter, and I saw a exchange between you and Wilson. No, Wilson.
Who? Oh, Andrew Wilson.
Andrew
Oh,
Wilson.
Andrew Wilson. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if Wilson. I hope you watch, or maybe Rick. You can get a clippable moment right here to call out Wilson for running from Pisco. You should get a clippable moment right now, I think, Pisco. Call him out, say you're running for me. He's asking for, oh, I want to debate Destiny, Hassan, Cenk. Like, who are you? You are smaller than all of these people. Why wouldn't you debate someone who's also small, creator, yeah? So,
Yeah,
you want to
I
call him
think
out
Andrew
for
Wilson.
running?
I think Andrew Wilson has grown substantially, and so he definitely has become bigger. I don't think he's as big as some of the people on that list. So I think you're right about that. But in general, he just has no problem debating people who are smaller, and it's this special rule that he's constructed for me that like I defended Destiny not debating Rob, which is so many layers of stupid because A, Destiny did debate Rob on the very topic that they're talking about. B, I encouraged that debate. See, I was advocating for Rob not to be blacklisted, but he's using like defending Rob like it's like Rob's his little brother or something, as though I was like rude to Rob when Rob and I like get along great. We just had a wonderful time. And so yeah, Rob is like a very affable person, and I recognize that. And I wasn't like bad to him ever. So Andrew is just a total bitch. He's a running coward, and he gives me a rule that he doesn't apply to anyone else, which is like $4,000 to debate me. Other
Wait,
people have tried to pay that fee
$4,000?
before. $4,000. Other people have tried to pay that fee before. It actually has increased. It used to be $2,000. There was a one-time $500 discount if I had donated to like his friend who
Okay.
had gone through like a traumatic accident or something. So he was trying to like I don't know, charity shame me or be like, it was kind of in bad taste in my opinion. Like a one-time $500 uh, like price to debate him. I think it's in poor taste. I'm not going to do it. And it's, as far as I know, the only person that he applies that rule to. So yeah, he's a complete bitch coward and he's running.
Yeah,
That's
but I also heard that I don't know if it's related, but I think he mentioned it in the past that you said you will sue Rab Noor or something like that.
No, no, look, because sometimes I talk in a way that is like very um lawyerly sometimes out of force of habit. So I said like, Rob, I'm putting you on notice that A, B, C, and Rob went off the like reservation there and was like, Pisco's threatening to sue me for defamation. He's threatened me. And I'm like, I would never sue you for defamation. I promise you, like, I don't like you don't have any money. Who are you to sue? I don't want to like spend my time suing you. And so that was a misinterpretation by Rob because Rob like I'm sorry to say, even though I had a
Probably
good
Rob
encounter.
was asked Claude, you know
Mhm.
Claude? So that's probably why he came with
Yeah. Are
that.
you French?
Yes, I am.
You, where in France?
So I'm French, but I'm not. I speak French, so I usually say, but I'm Belgian.
Oh, you're Belgian. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
Brussels.
Interesting.
well, Enrique, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you,
calling
Rich.
in,
Bye.
and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
That's
That guy wasn't
crazy that
French.
he wants to. Wilson wants $4,000 to
Yep.
debate you. That's insane. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Wilson once challenged me to a boxing match, 3 rounds. He said he'd pay
Did
me
he chicken out?
$20,000 if I could go 3 rounds. So I gave him a date. I said, okay, July 16th or June 28th or some shit, right? Let's do it. Let's go. $20,000. I'll take that, right? Fucker backed out. Fucker ran away. Didn't do shit. What a little bitch. Anyway, because I don't know, you guys seen me in real life. Some of you have at least. I'm not the strong dude or anything like that. And if you can't take me, I don't know. That's some bitch ass shit. Anyway, next person.
Was that after the pickle jar thing?
Yeah, because I was making fun
Yeah.
of it. And anyway, let's go. Stream Rift, you're live.
Oh God.
Oh, there he goes. Try again.
Hello.
Hi,
Bro,
what you
How we
got?
doing, bro?
fine. It's fine. How you doing, man? How you been?
Good, bro. I've been great. How are you?
Oh, I've been good. Okay.
What do you got for him?
I'm sorry. I am distracted here. I'm trying to get my freaking Okay, here we go. Now we're good. So I have a question for you. Now we got to Andrew Wilson. So I got involved. So I was talking shit on him online and he was being a bastard about it. He played a word game. I want to know, you Pisco, you're so good with word games. You tell me. So he says Mormons are not Christian. And I said, I'll debate. He said, I'll debate anyone. I said, okay, great. I'll debate you on it. Then he changed the prompt. Then he didn't even show up. What a filthy fuck that guy is. Doesn't that sound like fuckery to you?
To not show up to a debate after you
So
change the topic.
Right. Change the topic. And I said, okay, fine, we'll do your new topic. You pivot. And then he doesn't even show up. He says his wife is sick. You know, his wife's sick. Okay, fine. But
Well, if his
anyway,
wife is sick, I don't think that that's necessarily fuckery. If his wife
he
is sick.
didn't reschedule. But this ice shooting, since everybody's so excited about it, we
great.
disagree
We
on
got
something.
Pisco stuff, like Wilson stuff we can do. I don't
Yeah.
give
Yeah,
a
we'll do Pisco stuff. You guys, okay. So you're of the opinion I shouldn't have pulled the trigger, correct?
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Okay. So as
It's
you may
it's actually
imagine,
stronger than that. No, it's stronger than that. Not only should
Okay,
they
what
not
is
have done it, I think it's murder that he did do it. I think he's a
Okay.
murderer.
Okay, great. So you think he's a murderer? That's your framing.
Mhm.
So qualified immunity, judicial immunity, these things exist because we know people will take jobs as cops, sheriffs, judges, and they can't do their job effectively if they have an unreasonable burden on them of how they perform. So like judicial immunity, if the judge just freaking hates you, it's amorous, whatever, doesn't matter, they get a free pass. So my question to you is, you obviously think qualified immunity shouldn't cover as far as I think it should, and you don't. So what protections, if any, do you think law enforcement should have while they're out there doing their job to keep them safe? Because at the intersection of all of this debate seems to be one side saying, well, the officer was in fear for his life and he needed to protect himself. So let's say that line got crossed and you say it's murder, fine. You know, he circled the vehicle for 10 seconds. Some people will say he was standing in front of the vehicle. Well, he couldn't have been standing in front of the vehicle for more than a second or two. So just imagine the scenario to set this up, give you a hypo. Cars parked for 4 minutes. Then they start driving away. Like, at what scenario? Like, we'll start at the beginning. So, cars parked for 4 minutes. ICE shows up. At 2 minutes of parking, what should they do at that point?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the hypothetical. We could get into it more. You started though talking about qualified immunity. Not really relevant to this discussion. Qualified immunity is a doctrine that applies in the context
That's
of civil
bullshit,
damages suits.
Pisco. That's bullshit. Qualified immunity is a guardrail we put up so that law enforcement can operate without worrying about getting personally sued because they were being too rough with someone, among other things. It's a guardrail so that we can have law enforcement that can actually do their job, not just standing in the sidelines. So I think it's relevant.
I'm just telling you, it's not relevant
for the discussion?
It's not relevant to my analysis because I'm not contemplating
because he wasn't.
No, because I'm not contemplating a civil damages suit where qualified immunity would be applicable. I'm contemplating a criminal action where qualified immunity is not relevant. That's why I'm bringing it up. So, a lot of the cases that are relevant to the use of force arise in the qualified immunity context, no doubt about that. But that is just bringing up the sort of relevant use of force standard. But it's almost like a hard context because it's not just the standard, but also about like people's perception about what the legal standard is,
Well, and as interesting
as
as all that is,
opposed to
I'm
the
trying to
actual
ask
use of force
you.
analysis.
I'm trying to ask you about a boundary, right? You
Mhm.
think it was murder. I think he was on the job doing his job and he didn't wake up that morning deciding to kill her. So qualified immunity should apply. Let's set the legal analysis aside for a second. You, Pisco, you're a human being. I'm assuming you believe we should have law enforcement and they should be able to do some things, right? We don't
Yes.
disagree on that. Okay. So when we're looking at how law enforcement's interacting with citizens, how much of a guardrail should you get them? And I'm trying to use this as an example because you think the officer crossed the line. So I'm saying if we roll back 2 minutes before the shots were fired, there was someone impeding ICE doing their job, and they were parked in the middle. And I'll admit nothing had happened at that point that warrants being shot. So, what tools do you think law enforcement should have used, or where do you think it went off the rails? For again, a functioning society, we got to have law enforcement able to go out and do their job without worrying if they had an extra half a second to live or not in a situation where they're scared. So
Yeah, where I think
that's
it went
more
off the
where I find it
rails,
interesting.
where it went off the rails is in the use of force, which is what I'm describing as murder. That's where it went off
Okay.
the rails. Was that unclear?
Oh, it just feels like you're not engaging with it here, and that's too bad.
But what I thought I answered your question is where did it go off the rails? I don't have a problem with ICE in the main having authority to make arrests for crimes that they witness in their vicinity, and I haven't really dug into the question of whether ICE is authorized to make those detentions, and I'm assuming in all of my conversations that they are, and so I don't really have a problem in principle with ICE being authorized to make arrests or to use force. Even in the scenario that we're talking about, it's
all right.
the
To use a very
deadly use of
pointed
force.
example,
Well, can
do you think he should have? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just to maybe kind of get this somewhere so we don't circle for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's murder, Pisco? And then we can see why he disagrees. Go ahead.
Murder is the causing of the death of another human being with malice, aforethought, and without justification. In this case, the only thing up for debate, because we're not really going to question causality here, the bullets did cause the death, and it was done intentionally with either practical certainty or knowledge, and there's no triggering exception that would make malice not be applicable except for justification. And because I don't think there was a justified use of force here under the elaborated SCOTUS standards that are incorporated into Minnesota use of force law, then because of that, it's murder because it's not justified. They cause the death of another person with malice. It's definitionally murder, in my opinion.
So I don't think he woke up and had that forethought that you're talking about. He didn't. I don't think he
Me
even
too.
looked
That's
at her in
not
the car and said, "I want to kill her."
premeditation.
And so
is not part of
I'm
my
answering
analysis.
Wick's question. I'm answering Wick's question.
He didn't ask you a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, premeditation.
I thought
is
he
not,
asked you for why it was murder and me why it wasn't.
No,
I got
I didn't
confused,
ask
I
that.
guess.
No,
Oh, okay.
but just to be clear,
fair.
premeditation is not an element here. I'm not claiming that he
What was your standard that you
premeditated
said?
it.
You said foresight, forethought. What was it that you said?
I didn't say foresight or forethought.
What was your definition of murder?
malice?
You said malice.
Malice, aforethought. Malice, aforethought. It's a term of art. It's from the common law. Malice. It's the intentional.
At what point do you think he became malicious? As soon as he saw her parked in the middle of the road, so he walked up, got all, and he wanted to escalate it, or
it's just the definition of murder. So malice in this case can be conceived in an instant. You can have malice in a split second. In this case, the malice, the mens rea component of the murder, was made at the time he intended to shoot at her direction, with practical certainty that death would result.
Is there any scenario of him walking around the vehicle or his position of the vehicle where you think it would have been okay for him to shoot? Like, do you categorically reject the idea that the vehicle, in this case, to oversimplify the argument, the vehicle was a deadly weapon? Do you categorically dismiss that, or do you think that it's, if if there's something about the way her hand was on the steering wheel that might change the equation for you?
I don't understand the question. I'm going to just try to clarify it. So, are you asking me whether I think it's possible for vehicles to be used as deadly weapons? Is that your question?
Yes, that's part one.
Yes, it is possible, by which I mean there are cases in which the use of a vehicle can be as a deadly weapon. And in fact, I can think of a lot of scenarios in which that would happen.
So in this scenario, she was parked for 4 minutes. She backed up and then she started driving towards him. And this all happened really fast. So what makes you feel like that didn't make it the issue? Like a lot of folks say, well, she was slightly pointed to the left, the right. He stepped in front of it. They blamed the officer for not being able to predict where this car was going to be. These sorts of things. It seems like you cut a very free pass. Like the citizen here could have simply just been the jackass all along and then parked the car and not moved, and she'd still be alive. And it
That's not
sounds
the
like that's an
analysis.
unreasonable ask for someone of your position. I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
you're just doing a very like untailored analysis about like what someone could have done. What could
I'm
have
teasing
prevented
out
the
to try to
death.
find something here, but it seems
Yeah,
like we're not getting it.
it's a very unsophisticated and untailored analysis. The question for use of force isn't what the decedent could have done differently. It's doing the use of force standards as articulated by the Supreme Court and by policy. That's
all right.
what
Well, I'll
the use of
tell
force
you
is.
this. There's a bunch of other folks that want to disagree with you here. I think we've hit the intersection.
Wait.
Always
Did you want
good to see you,
to?
bud.
Do you want me to explain it? All right.
Go for it.
Here's it
Yeah,
in a
I'm all
nutshell.
ears. I'm all ears.
So the test for use of force is objective reasonableness. In the context of deadly force, it's when there's a risk, an imminent risk of serious bodily injury or death.
Death or serious bodily harm. Yep.
And the use of force needs to be necessary. That is, say, reasonably necessary to prevent the qualifying threat. And in this case, not only do I think that his body was not at risk of serious bodily injury, I think that the use of force there has no tendency to eliminate the threat, right? It's not at all clear that him shooting in the moment is going to decrease the tendency of the qualifying threat, assuming that it was there. Because, of course, shooting someone... Wait, let me just finish. No, shooting someone in that context doesn't at all have any tendency to decrease the risk. It would be different if it's one of these cases where there's like been a high-speed chase, they're trying to escape a murder, or where there's enough for a reasonable officer in his position to think that there is an intent to like use the vehicle in the future to target people. That's not found here, and therefore I think it's almost like it's an easy case of not justified.
The one argument that I think we would find common ground on is if I'm in that officer situation, the vehicle's coming at me. Part of the reason why I like a 45 caliber round if you get someone in the shoulder to physically knock them back. Like you're pointing out, if she's already that close to him, he shoots her. I think the vehicle still runs him over. So that's a part of the logic collapse for me on that. That's
right. So
look,
wait, so let's
wait. Wasn't that nice?
No. Hang on a second. That's not just an inch stream rift. That means you agree that it's not necessary, right? As in, it has no tendency to lower the risk or threat. Did you just say that?
I gave you an opening on that one.
No. Wait. Why don't you agree with that? Wait,
I'll go 90% with you for free.
So 90%. It's not. It doesn't follow the objectively reasonable test of the Supreme Court, and therefore it's not justified. Therefore, it's murder. That is beautiful. That is the case right there. If you think that shooting the driver there has no tendency to lower the risk, and an objectively reasonable officer in his position would have known that, then it's done, not justified, right? It would be like if I use this example all the time, right? If there's someone shooting at you from a given direction and you're just anxious, yes, there's a deadly threat upon you, but what you choose to do in response to a deadly threat is just aim in a completely other direction for no reason because you're panicking. Regardless of whether or not those shots like cause the death of another person, no one can say those shots are objectively reasonable because they have no tendency to actually respond to the threat, which justifies the use of force. And so on that view, of course, this is like a preposterous claim that shooting this woman would be objectively reasonable. How could it if it doesn't? It might even increase the chance that he gets fucking hurt.
Yeah, like I said, 90% on that one. It doesn't get me all the way to a cop should be arrested for murder because this wasn't him just walking down the street. This wasn't just random animosity. He didn't see a group of protesters and say, "You guys are fucking awful." Pew pew pew. There's enough there.
He doesn't need to.
Qualified immunity makes sense. I get it.
But Streamrift. I need to tell you this because it's very important. Qualified immunity only applies in the civil damages context. Do you understand that? So don't talk about qualified immunity.
Okay.
All right. Pisco.
Yes. You got anything else on this for Pisco, or are we gonna let you go?
Oh, I just want to see him again sometime. Love you, brother. You did great at World War Debate. You're awesome.
Word War Debate.
Discord's awesome. Word Debate. And Wick's always an excellent host. I'll catch you guys later.
Appreciate it.
See you later.
Thank
buddy.
you.
Peace.
It's interesting to me because I'm not a lawyer, right? And I don't know the ins and outs, and so I can't speak to the legality of it like perhaps you could. But just watching that, and seeing him, had he A, not shot, and B, simply took a small step to the left or the right, the right, nothing would have happened. Nothing would have happened.
True.
And
True.
it's just, I can't say if it's legal or not, but it was unnecessary. And I think that anyone trying to justify it, or even worse, celebrate it, is
Right.
pretty disgusting.
DHS is not authorized to do unnecessary shootings. They're authorized to do necessary shootings.
Okay, let's see what we got next. Okay, Magtard, what do you have?
Oh. Oh, hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
What do you have?
Oh, yeah, my question is for Pisco, and why ought Ethan not have sued Denham's, Casey Tron, and Frogan when they blatantly and flagrantly tried to steal his did steal his intellectual property, and actively tried to be a marker replacement for his stolen intellectual property?
Because I don't think, notwithstanding the clear infringement on my view, that having clear infringement is it necessarily entails that suing is justified.
So,
Do you agree with that?
what, there's allowed to steal internally his intellectual property?
I didn't say that. I said in any
So
given
then what's his
instance.
remedy?
So no, I just want to make sure you agree or not. I didn't say that they're allowed to sue infinitely. I said in any given instance, the mere fact that you have a strong legal case isn't enough to know that the lawsuit is justified. I'm asking if you agree with that.
Isn't enough to know if a lawsuit is justified?
Ethically justified.
So if you have a strong legal case, your lawsuit isn't necessarily justified?
Yeah, would you agree with that proposition?
No.
Do you think every case which is a strong legal case is ethically justified?
Is ethically justified?
That's
Under
my question.
ethics? Yes.
Yeah. Were lawsuits trying to return fugitive slaves justified because they were legally allowed under the Constitution? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, he said yes. He put that.
Then we just have a different. I think that is just a difference in preferences. It's going to ground out into what we think is right, and I don't think that just because something is legal.
So what are Ethan's remedies then? Just have his stuff stolen?
I don't think that the existence or non-existence of remedies is dispositive on whether something is justified. So you asking the question presupposes that there ought be a remedy for every legal wrong. I can give you my ethical case if you're asking for it. Or I can just answer the question that you're giving, right? So like, what's his remedy? I didn't say that there is a remedy, and it wouldn't be necessary on my view.
So basically, your position is that Ethan just has to have his stuff infinitely stolen because
that's not my position.
Is ethically wrong.
No, that's not my position.
Okay, so why is his lawsuit ethically wrong? He's getting remedies.
You're asking the question, right?
Property.
So I think a lawsuit is ethically. You're not going to agree with this because you bit the bullet that it's justified to sue even to return slaves into bondage. So you've already bitten the bullet. Okay, so you're a law maximalist. Whatever is legal is ethical in your view. So just to be clear, that's an absurd position. But my view is that so you're not going to agree with this. That lawsuits are justified in general. I'm going to presume that lawsuits are ethically justified if they follow the animating purpose and good purposes. That is to say, the sort of legitimate purposes of a given cause of action. I'm going to presume they're valid absent some broader societal harm. And if they're motivated only by invalid purposes and no valid purpose, by which I mean one that is regarding the animating spirit of the statute or cause of action, I'm going to assume it's bad absent some overwhelming societal good cause or effect. So that's my kind of standard.
Yeah, just a quick question on that from my end, if I may.
Yeah.
What is your, because I haven't followed your Ethan Klein stuff, to be honest. What's your argument that it is an illegitimate use of Ethan Klein's time to sue these people? Because you admit they are stealing content. You will cede to that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that they infringe on his property.
So what makes it illegitimate for him to go after him?
So because I don't think that his purpose in bringing the lawsuit is a legitimate purpose with respect to the cause of action, I'm going to hold a presumption against him. I don't think that there's a single legitimate purpose, and I'll explain. I think legitimate purposes with respect to, this is my own ethical view. I'm not saying this is a legal standard. I'm just telling you ethically, under the copyright statute would be things like the following: preventing infringement, if you cared about preventing infringement, using the lawsuit to protect the artistic integrity of your work, trying to deter future infringement,
Wouldn't
recovering
this do
damages.
that, though?
No, I don't think it.
Really?
No, no, because I don't think that he cares about infringement in this case. I think that if I thought he cared about the infringement in this case and he cared to do a more blanket deterrence, I would say that it is. My presumption is that it is ethically justified. But because I don't think he's already disclaimed damages as a reason for why he's doing it, he says it's not about money. He wanted the infringement to happen because he set a trap in January. He wanted this infringement to occur. He is open about this. And therefore, I don't think that there's any of the legitimate purposes under the statute. Given that, I'm going to apply a presumption against the lawsuits being ethically justified, notwithstanding their legal strength. And because I don't see an overridingly good social purpose in the lawsuit, I'm going to presume that it's ethically wrong.
Yeah. So, Wick, what happened was Ethan, he made the video, the content nuke. I think it, and I read before he did it, he registered it with, I think it's the Library of Congress. Or
I remember the details, yeah.
Yeah. And then after he did that and he premiered it, when he announced it, Denham's, Casey Tron, and Frogan all conspired with various snark communities to
That's not
basically
proven. Wait, stop. I'm gonna correct you. Where's the evidence they conspired?
Anyway, they conspired.
So wait. So I just want to be. I want to be clear. Wait. Do you have evidence? Do you have evidence they conspired? Yes or no? Do you have evidence they conspired? Yes or no?
I don't have evidence offhand that they conspired.
So how do you know they conspired?
Well, that's just my ethical opinion.
Oh, you sure you're a troll?
Your ethical opinion about the lawsuit. Anyway.
Well, hang on. So no. That's a statement of fact. That's a statement of fact. That's a statement of fact. You said they conspired and you have no proof. And you admit you have no proof.
Yeah, kind of like how you have no proof that the lawsuit is unjustified. Just
what do you mean?
Your subjective opinion.
Well, that's what an ethical take is.
Yeah, your subjective opinion. So anyway, the lawsuit is based, and you know it's based.
Okay, I mean that's your opinion too, right? So how do you prove that it's based?
No, I know it's based. Because,
it's just your opinion, bro. It's just your opinion, bro.
Because Frogan, Casey Tron, and Denham's
sound like an idiot.
Knowingly stole his IP. They knew they were stealing his IP, and now they're facing the consequences of stealing his IP.
You're just stating what happened with respect to the strength of the legal claim, which I grant.
Protect their IP.
Yeah, and you think it's a good thing that people sue to get slaves back into bondage. You said that. That's good.
Yeah, because people have property rights. We can't just abrogate those rights.
He's a troll. All right.
Wait, hang on. Sorry, you think it's okay to abrogate rights just because you personally think it's okay?
If there's slave rights, yes, I do. Wait. If there's slave rights, yes. Yes? Do you agree or not?
What?
So you think that we should maintain slavery and we shouldn't have gotten rid of people's property rights?
No, I think we should. I think what we should have done is what we should have done. Well, I'm answering your question. What are you uh-ohing?
Well, I think that you realize.
I'm really curious what you answered.
You asked me what we should have done. I think we should have done what Great Britain did and bought the slaves and then set them free and then outlawed slavery.
Wouldn't that be socialism because we're buying private property?
Yeah. What if they chose not to alienate their slaves? They thought it was
alienate their slaves.
Yeah.
What do you mean alienate? What do you mean alienate?
So alienation is a notion that like if you think of an inalienable right, it's one where you can't give it away, right? So they don't choose to give up their right or entitlement to own the slaves.
Rights. I don't think there are inalienable rights.
Okay, then just they choose not to sell their slaves back to the government.
Okay. Then slavery is legal and they're holding slaves illegally.
Okay. Do you I'm gonna give you one more thing, Magatard, and then we're gonna move on. What do you got? One more thing quickly.
Well, I mean, thank you for admitting that Ethan's lawsuit is based in awesome. I'm glad the societal good of upholding property rights is being upheld by Ethan Klein. And yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay, let's get to some of these super chats. I got a couple of questions from the audience for you. Then we'll start bringing more people in. $5 from Jen Wink. Is a lawsuit more or less ethical than maliciously stealing IP?
It depends. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less.
Sure. £5 from Riz with the fuck. Say, how come Pisco focused on the purity of Ethan's motivations with the case, but not Denham's and Frogren's motivations in stealing his content?
So we're analyzing the sort of justification of one action. It does take into account potentially the motivations of other people. It's just not dispositive. And we're not talking about purity of motivation here. I would accept the presence of improper motives with respect to the lawsuit. I think a lot of lawsuits are justified by or have present improper motives, but I noticed a lack of any proper purpose. And that is why I take a burden against the lawsuits. If I thought there was a proper purpose to bring the lawsuits, I would take a presumption in favor of the lawsuits, but I don't detect that, and therefore that's my frame of reference. And notice, by the way, folks, no one else tries to provide a framework for when they're going to consider ex ante a lawsuit justified and when they will consider it not justified. All of them try to have this morass of different factors, ad hoc factors that they'll use to try to distinguish different cases as it suits them. But no one actually does the work as I did to show their when, right? To predict in advance when they'll justify. It's not just on lawsuits, it's also on things like doxing, right?
This is super easy.
People will not.
If they're my friends, it's okay. If they're not, it's not.
Right. If that's your standard. So we just want
I'm memeing, by the way,
people.
but yeah.
I know. We just want people to have ex ante standards that they don't just adjust and change at their whim and discretion whenever new facts present themselves. So come up with a standard and let's apply it. But I'm the only one actually out on a limb giving a standard, or you sound like an idiot like the last caller who says, well, as long as it's illegal or as long as it's legal to bring a case, it's justified to bring that case, which is, of course, ridiculous.
Okay, $20 from Zonia TV. To Pisco, if Denham's, Frogan, and Casey Tron were much larger streamers, would you find Ethan's lawsuit more ethically justified? If so, do you think his lawsuit is more out of spite than out of justice or remuneration? Remuneration? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a point at which the size would affect it. I think the larger and larger they are, perhaps more of this like harassment rationale or of the effects on infringement might make more purchase with me, but it's really at the margins. I think you have a high burden here to show the presence of a proper purpose or some sort of pervasive negative social consequence that's going to be prevented by this lawsuit. And I think people have failed on that score. I've even asked, like, what's the horrible thing that Casey Tron did to Ethan? And no one can really even explain it.
Okay. Pondering Politics, $10. Okay. My Pisco versus the World question. You would agree, wouldn't you, that Star Wars Episode 7 is worse than Episode 9? Yes or no?
I think that Star Wars Episode 7 is better than Episode 9. No, I don't agree.
Okay. $5 from Alishness. Do you think that you approach most debates like a lawyer, and most people aren't lawyers? They think you're being pedantic and combative unnecessarily?
No, I think that it's like wrong to say that I approach things like a lawyer or like how one would do it professionally. In fact, I think a lot of the quote unquote tactics that I use aren't like indicative of what strong lawyers would do. It's a different kind of thing, right? Like, I often think that the theatrics that I will do or the yes or no, that's just because I'm more in the kind of linearization mode. And I don't always think that that's most effective for lawyers to do. Sometimes it's better for lawyers to focus on the big picture, to have simple stories as opposed to getting stuck in the granular details. And so I think that there's this like almost, what's the right word here? Stereotype that the kind of question and answer that I do is what lawyers would do. But I don't actually know that that's what I'm doing and what effective lawyers do when they're practicing law. I think they're different things.
Okay. $5 from Riz what the fuck to say, yesterday, folks said the standard was whether the shooter felt threatened, regardless of whether they were actually in danger. Were they correct?
Yes and no. So the mere existence of danger is or not isn't the analysis. So they're correct on that score, that it has to do with feelings, but not just subjective feelings. Feelings of for what an objectively reasonable officer would have in that position. So it's both a subjective, but crucially, an objective reasonability test. So yes, it is feelings dependent, but it's not mere subjective feelings. It's the feelings that an objectively reasonable officer would have in that position.
Okay, we're almost done with the first batch. We can get back to live, people.
Mhm.
$5 from Eddie Bombay to say a lot of people who have worked around forklifts have been in more danger than that ICE agent. Not a question, but thank you. And then finally, $2 from Psychor Games. Pisco, can you summarize your positions? I just joined. No, he already did it, and you'll figure out. If you want to challenge him, you can come in and do so. Let's bring in the next goober here, okay? What's up?
Yo,
Live.
Gibbs.
How you doing? You're doing all right today? He's looking good.
What up, brother? How you doing? Let's see your
fantastic.
outfit.
Oh,
It's not as good as usual.
Camera's being weird.
But,
Usually
there
it's
we
good.
go.
Oh,
Here we
nice.
are.
What up, man?
Yeah, we got some interview wild shit. I got a date later. We gotta do some wild stuff.
Hell yeah.
What are we talking about today? Let's see. You don't think I heard that you thought this was a murder earlier? Why is it a murder, Pisco? I'm sure you've already gone into this at least once.
Yeah, I think that it's a killing with malice of forethought and without justification. I believe that's the definition of murder.
Okay, I said this the other night on when we were on the Destiny thing, and I was like, basically, I said, okay, if you're breaking into the Capitol building, you should probably have been shot, right? Would you agree with that?
No,
No. Really? Why not?
I don't think that it was smart strategically to shoot all of those people in that context. I think it might have made things more unsafe, and I am not convinced
Sure,
that
not
it
strategically.
would be
Do you think
justified.
that? Okay, but do you believe it's
do it.
okay if someone breaks into a home and then you shoot them?
Depends on the context, but in general, burglaries I do think would, in most cases, be sufficient to use deadly force. Yes, and in the case of
How about like a business?
in the business context, it's more fact dependent. It really does. It is more fact dependent. Because there isn't a necessary nexus in a business with a imminent fear or threat of serious bodily injury or death. I don't think that mere property destruction is sufficient for a deadly force, and so it depends for the business context.
Interesting. Well, that's well, then we're just gonna be polar opposites on that one. I don't really see why we're going. I don't feel we.
Well, just
can go into
because
that
something
anymore.
would be justified, just because it would be legally justified to shoot, doesn't mean that I think that it's ethically justified. And so when you ask the question, was it justified, and you didn't say legally justified, I thought that what you were asking is like whether it was good. It would have been good to shoot all of them.
No, yeah, no, that's fine. I get your moral. I got a different one we can fight about here. I think
Yeah.
that'll be more fun. What about the Ilhan Omar? Should we prosecute Ilhan Omar now that there's whistleblowers coming out saying that
Ilhan Omar?
Yeah, that she funneled money to her husband's funds or business.
Oh, I don't
or
know
whatever?
anything about that. I thought you were referencing this conspiracy theory that she married her brother, which to me has
No,
never been corroborated.
I don't give two fucks about that. I'm talking about my money, bro. That's what I care about, my money. Like,
what's the accusation?
The accusation is she funneled money from her campaign into her husband's business, which would be a breaking of campaign finance laws.
Yeah, I would need to see the facts there, but if she's violating campaign finance laws, I have no problem prosecuting her or filing a lawsuit, depending on which is applicable given the state of mind.
Okay. Do you think there's fraud in all of this in Minnesota, or do you think it's just a witch hunt?
Well, there's absolutely fraud in Minnesota. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Well, shit. I thought I had more to argue with you about today, but I don't know.
Wait a second. Is anyone contesting A, that there isn't Minnesota fraud, or B, that if Ilhan Omar did fraud or did campaign finance violations, she shouldn't be prosecuted? Like, who is arguing that?
Pisco. I have had many arguments already in the last 2 weeks about if there was even fraud, if fraud exists at all in Minnesota, or if it's just a racist witch hunt against Somalis. Now, I'll tell you what, guys, conservatives, y'all watching, stop fucking using the IQ argument. You make us look bad. That's not the argument you need to be using. I don't give two fucks about the side. That was a little soapbox.
Yeah, the contention isn't that there's not fraud. It's that A, the reporting on it has been itself fraudulent and lies, and B, that the kind of narratives are damaging, not true, or outright slanderous at times.
Okay. So, but this is, I guess, the problem is, it's like if you say, "Oh, it's Somali fraud," and they're committing a larger amount of fraud than other specific groups, like I don't know, Mexican fraud, right? Like that's not necessarily racist. It's like to say that, but immediately it's pushed as is racist. Like Nick Shirley, okay, his
Well,
reporting may not
some
be
of it
up to
is
the par
racist.
of like the Pulitzer. Well, how so? Like, yeah, I agree. Some of it is racist. Whenever we have conservatives come on here and yell about the IQ shit, I think that comes off very racist, right? Like that, I agree with you, Pisco. But like,
Yep.
if I go, the Somalis are committing fraud in droves, and they have a history of fraud, like not fraud of crime, going back to the Barbary pirates. I don't think it's racist to say that.
They have a history of fraud going back to the Barbary pirates.
Going like not of crime. You know, you like piracy. That's a crime, right? We agree piracy is a crime.
Yeah, and Italians have a history of crime going back
Sure.
to
Yeah,
the
Italians also
days
have a
of
history of
Sicily.
crime. Costa
And
Nostra, they fought Mussolini.
and white people have a history of crime going back
Yeah,
centuries.
I agree.
So
I agree.
So I think the feeling is that sometimes people will fixate on a given group, given their sort of
Yeah, but one of them's
position
got
in the
special
zeitgeist.
status. We're not giving Italians like protected status.
What are we? Yeah, but that's different, right? Like the temporary protected
That's
status.
the difference.
Yeah, but like we don't need to give temporary protected status to people from Italy because Italy is not a country that's like engulfed in humanitarian and like warlike conditions, bad humanitarian conditions, or like famine and shit like that. So temporary protected status for different countries doesn't relate to their tendency to do crime.
Yeah, but if you're
It relates
giving
to
temporary status to a group and then they're committing fraud on one of the most massive industrial scales of all time, like, wouldn't you agree that maybe we should take a look into keeping giving them that
have
status?
you heard of painting too broad with a brush? And like maybe
Sure.
just because some members of the Somali community did fraud, maybe we shouldn't like treat all of them as though they're fraudsters.
Okay, sure, maybe. But if your community is also at the same time one of the largest per capita recipients of like your welfare and tax dollars, so it's a net negative on their taxes, and you're committing fraud at a massive scale. I mean, that's a double whammy, is it not?
I guess I don't understand the question.
So
How are
okay,
those
like
things
listen,
related?
if I'm Hispanic, right? If every Mexican was receiving welfare, that would be a negative drain. If we're all Mexican Americans were a negative drain on the U.S. economy, that group of people was committing basically not tax fraud at that point, but they're just a tax burden.
Yeah, but I'm not convinced that Somalis are a negative weight on the economy.
We have the stats.
What you're citing right now is their
80% of them get welfare.
You're right now citing their fiscal impact, but that's not the impact on the economy. That's impact on the fisc of the government.
Yeah, and I pay for that. Don't you pay for that? You're a lawyer. You pay for that.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, that's true. But the idea is we've implemented temporary protected status for a reason. It's for humanitarian purposes.
So they got a status, and we're paying taxes, and it's all going to them, right? And so then they have the status, and then now that same group of people,
they're also
already
paying
a negative,
taxes.
like on the fisc.
They're also paying taxes.
If you are paying, okay, how? If you're getting welfare, you're probably getting a tax return, right?
Well, not every Somali is paying welfare, and it's a thing called sales tax.
I heard the ones running daycares are getting bank actually.
But I mean, the real reason I'm mad is because I know that if I committed this crime, I would get caught in 2 weeks. That's the real.
Yeah, the thing is, these people did get caught, and they're being prosecuted, and they were prosecuted under Biden.
What? And then they were. We have the attorney general on file saying don't press these cases too hard for Minnesota.
Says who? Wait, which attorney general? Keith Ellison?
One of them, the one that's in trouble now. They're opening the thing. I'll find it for us in a bit.
No, but the Department of Justice, the federal attorney general under Biden, he implemented wide sweeping investigations, and like a lot of these cases were tried and prosecuted under the Biden Department of Justice. So it sounds like they were caught, and the fact that we're talking about it shows they were caught.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like it because it seems like we're going in there and we're finding millions and millions and millions of dollars of new fraud all the time.
Oh, we are. We found a bunch, and I'm not saying that we got all of it in Biden's term. The investigations continued, but we are charging it and we're enforcing the law against them.
I just don't know how you could say that. Like, it just doesn't seem like under Biden there was
Wait,
really
don't you agree
any
with it?
hammer. It was all no.
In
I don't agree
virtue
with that at
of
all.
what? Wait. In virtue of what was there not any action on it by the Biden administration? That's where the cases started. A lot of them they secured convictions in Biden's administration. Why would they just be letting it go when they're the ones making press releases on it and there's news stories on it during Biden's administration?
Maybe just like, to me, whenever you say this, right, it's a little hard for me to believe that, oh, okay, the Biden administration, which is also the Kamala administration, was really diving into this that hard. Whenever
In virtue of what? Why is that hard to believe?
I will tell you why it's hard to believe. Because Walz clearly had to know, and he got put in there as the VP candidate. This would be like, oh, we have some of the biggest fraud of all time in our state. And either this guy's totally inept and he didn't know any of this was happening, and y'all put him as the VP, or he knew, which makes him in cahoots with him, like for this.
No, wait.
And so, like, when you tell me Biden administration, and which is the Kamala administration, it's just like, oh yeah, they're prosecuting this. I got doubts, buddy. Like,
wait, Gibbs, you know that doesn't make any sense, right? Because what you just said makes no sense. You're like, well, the fact they chose Walz to be VP shows they didn't do anything about Somali fraud.
Oh yeah, it shows corruption.
But you understand that makes no sense whatsoever? Just because they pick someone who's in a state where fraud happened and where the state itself was defrauded doesn't mean that they didn't do anything about fraud.
Okay, you're right. That means they might not have done anything. Then it means my first thing that he was
but they did. The thing is,
the Democratic Party is
here's the evidence.
Here's the evidence.
Here's the evidence they did do something about it, right? They opened investigations, charged people, and convicted people during Biden's term in office. So that's pretty good evidence that they did investigate it, right? Otherwise, how could you explain the existence of these convictions, charges, and news stories that happened pre-Trump?
Well, I would just say those people were the worst of the worst, are just really bad at it and got caught. And versus it was so bad, so easy to catch them that they had to.
You're just making that up. You have no reason to believe that.
I mean, that's what it seemed. I mean, like, you're right. I have no concrete proof of that. But based on the egregious amounts that we found in like a very minuscule amount of time since the Nick Shirley report came out, right? It seems like there's just been it's like the opening of the floodgates versus like, y'all found a couple things.
Gibbs, you're a mark, right? You are a mark. So that story was made for people like you who read headlines and watch shit and then react and draw wild conclusions based on no evidence. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised that it seems like that.
Okay. How do you say there's no evidence when it's just like we have the Ilhan Omar connection, we have Walz connection, we have the Minnesota Attorney General going here saying don't prosecute these crimes because it's going to make us look racist. Like we have, then he has to say, then he has them on record. We have them on recording saying, oh yeah, some of this is going back to Democratic candidates. Like they knew this was a system, and you're just like, nah, it didn't happen. Like,
I didn't say it didn't happen. I said that the Biden administration investigated and prosecuted it, contrary to the both statements and implications of these right-wing propagandists who seem to think that they did nothing about it.
Just one last question.
Yeah,
then.
one last question because we do got a second. We love you, Gibbs.
So, do you trust? Yeah, no, that's fine. Do you trust, like, say, I don't know, who was the PMC that shot the people? Blackwater to investigate themselves for like crimes.
Do I trust them to investigate themselves for crimes? Yes. Yeah. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
I was going to say, if you would trust a company to investigate themselves, then, I mean, I guess I understand why you'd trust Biden to investigate themselves.
Yeah, but the thing is, they weren't but the thing is, they weren't investigating themselves. The DOJ was investigating
neither was
Somali fraudsters. They weren't investigating themselves. They were investigating Somali fraudsters. So it's not themselves.
The ones that didn't give them enough money, that must have been who they were investigating. They got it.
Again, but you're just making that up, right?
Kickbacks.
Okay, Gibbs. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks, Gibbs. I'll be good.
Yeah, have a good one.
Oh boy, gang.
No, but people are going to misunderstand what I'm saying with the Blackwater stuff. I'm just saying, just because a company initiates an investigation, an internal investigation, means that I'm not going to trust it. There are some internal investigations where you'll hire a reputable law firm to conduct it. And so all I'm saying is that the mere fact that an entity is outsourcing an investigation or doing an internal investigation, as to say, doesn't mean that I'm not going to trust it. That's all I'm saying.
That makes sense. Raving Wall, welcome to the show. What do you got?
Hello. I'm here to debate the ice shooting.
Okay.
Okay, the first point is, if the first shot is justified, then the Jonathan Ross's other shots must be justified.
That's not true.
Legally, you have to analyze each individual shot, right?
Yep.
Well, according to this study from 2014, on average, an officer fires for 1.6 seconds after getting the order to stop. And in that time, they usually fire over 2 rounds, something like that. What do you think of that?
So doesn't mean that per se it's justified, which is your claim.
But in legal analysis, if an officer takes 1.6 seconds to stop firing in ideal conditions, how is the number of bullets over the course of the 0.6 seconds Jonathan Ross shot? How is that material at all?
So you're asking, how can it be the case that we could say that it's reasonable to ask an officer to stop for anything less than 1.6 seconds? Is that your question? Given that
Yeah,
that's the average
because
in quote unquote ideal conditions?
conditions, under no stress, under no consideration of danger, it takes them 1.6 seconds to stop shooting on average.
Yeah, can you so just to be clear, can you repeat to me the conditions of the study? So in that study, they're firing at what? At a target?
They're firing at the target until the target blinks off. They're firing at the green light until the green light blinks off.
Okay. So they're told to continuously fire, right?
Yes.
So in that situation, the sort of entire experiment presupposes a continual rate of fire, doesn't it?
They're told to fire
One of the
as
parameters,
you-
right? So one of the parameters of the study that you're talking about presupposes a continuing rate of fire.
Not necessarily. No, I don't think so.
Isn't that part of the let's just do it linear, right? Is it or is it not the case that by doing the experiment, you are required to fire multiple times?
Yes.
Okay.
But is that the
Why
question you
would you,
asked me a
why?
while ago?
I think it is. Yeah, it assumes a continuous rate of fire.
It assumes multiple shots.
Right. But what I mean is that the decision to shoot multiple times is pre-baked into the experiment. That's the question, and the answer is yes. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So why would you assume that that applies in every police encounter as well?
Because police are trained to shoot until the suspect is dropped or until they drop their weapon.
In every case, all the time?
I think so. You'd
No,
have to look
not
it
the
up
case.
yourself, but can you tell me that police are not trained that way?
Well, they are trained with respect to a qualifying threat to eliminate the threat so long as it persists.
Yup, and due to certain incidents where people kept attacking after being shot in the lung and in the spine and in the head, police officers are trained to shoot until the suspect is dropped or until they drop their weapon.
Until the threat persists, correct?
While the threat is persistent, they are trained to fire until the suspect drops or drops their weapon.
Right. They're not trained to fire while the threat does not persist, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So do you think a reasonable officer in this ICE agent's position would know that there's no qualifying threat? I mean, putting aside that I don't think the
No,
first shot is
That's not the
justified.
question I asked. My
Okay,
question is, if the first shot was justified, given that the officers in perfect conditions take 1.6 seconds to stop shooting on average, are the other shots justified?
Not per se. So there is no per se rule. Just to, if
What
that's
do
your
you
question.
think, Pisco, if the first shot is justified, will
No, the other shots are
let's say
not.
a prosecution be able to prove that the other shots are
That's not the question.
unjustifiable?
That I don't know about, but that's not the question. The question is what I think, right? Are you asking me to predict a prosecution that hasn't been initiated and I don't know about?
No, I guess that's not an important question to ask. But what I am asking is, give me I like to you to show me proof that an officer, if he perceives a threat to his life during the first shot, which is something I don't know if you grant that or not, but you've been
Wouldn't that be
I don't
analyzing
grant
each
that.
shot
Babbitt?
individually.
Like Ashley
You've
Babbitt,
been
the guy who
analyzing each
shot
shot
her only
individually,
shot once, right?
and I think that's just not a correct way to go about things.
Wait, so are you asking me, do I grant that the first shot was justified? The answer is no.
No,
What
if
else? What
the
else are you asking me?
first shot is justified, then the other shots are justified.
My answer to that is no, and I'm asking for the justification for that claim.
And I will keep repeating that. How do you square that with the reality that officers keep shooting for 1.6 seconds in perfect conditions after they have been told to stop?
Yes, because I don't think that the experiment, which presupposes a continuous rate of fire, with respect to a light, that those conditions persist in all the encounters that a police may have in their day-to-day activities, and the mere fact that this is assuming the study, and what is the name of the study, by the way, just so we are aware of it?
Lewinsky 2014 reaction time. You can search that. You can search for that.
What's it called? Wait, reaction time. What's the author?
Lewinsky and others reaction time. 2014. I can send
cool.
it to you.
Yeah.
Chat.
Just so to be aware, like in that study, the very fact that the study is in a condition in which police officers are expected to keep firing until they see a given a phenomenon means that you've already pre-baked in multiple shots, and so I don't think that is that parameter is going to be true of every police encounter.
They are supposed to fire until in real life and in real life
threat
they're supposed to
persists.
fire until the threat persists. And if the police officer perceived a threat during the first shot, naturally the other shots are justified, right?
No, that's your claim. I'm asking you to justify it.
And I say this study justifies it.
Okay, we're circling a bit.
Yeah, I'll take a look. I'll take a look at the study. I don't think that it resolves the issue because people can realize that a threat has ended in less time than 1.6 seconds. Do you agree with that?
They can, but they don't on average. It's a reasonable police officer. It's perfectly natural to fire 3 shots over the course of 0.6 seconds. And if the first shot is justified, even if the threat in reality was even if in over the course of the 0.6 seconds the threat did not persist, you can't expect a reasonable officer to process that.
Where's the pin site for 1.6 seconds?
Pardon?
For 1.6 seconds.
The average is 1.6 seconds. Do you want me to show you the page?
Yeah, just tell me the page number for that claim.
Yeah, this is. I'm just saying. We're gonna wrap this up a little bit, right? Because I think we're just asking the same question over and over again, getting the same.
No, I have other points. I have other points.
Okay, make another point.
But Pisco hasn't even looked at the study yet.
Yeah, wait. I just want to know where. Just tell me where the 1.6 seconds is, and then we can get to the other point. Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing that now. I think it's on page 9.
Page 9, got it. Well, Control F 1.6. I don't see it. 1 second. So page 9, you said. Page 9.
Page Yep. Page 9. It's the table 2. Oh, it's not 1.6. It's 1.06.
1.06. So 1.06 seconds.
And
the amount of TPs. What's TPs?
TPs is trigger pull.
Trigger pulls complete. So this is the amount of trigger pulls after the green light was turned off, not the amount of seconds, correct?
Let's look again.
Wait. I just want to make sure.
There are multiple stats.
Wait. I just want to make sure. So TPs is number of trigger pulls, correct? Yes or no?
Yep.
So when it says 1.06 plus or minus 0.52, that's the amount of trigger pulls, not the amount of seconds, correct?
Yep.
So what you just said has to be wrong, correct? What you've said so far has been wrong?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. We're gonna move
But
on because we got some other people to get in here. But
I haven't even finished yet.
I know, I understand, but we do have a big line.
But
Tell
there's
you
another
what,
point. Just
if Pisco
wait.
wants, we can have you on again in a more extended,
Sure.
relaxed session.
I have another point. Wait, come on.
Make your closing. I'll give you a closing statement. How's that?
Okay, I have other points. That one was like a misnomer. Sorry, but my other point was that Jonathan Ross perceived a imminent threat to his life from the screeching of the tires on ice when, as Pisco, I've seen the tire spun out in the video. You can hear the tire spinning out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like
From Jonathan Ross's video, you can hear his tire spinning out.
Oh, I mean, I buy that. I don't think it's dispositive, and I think that it doesn't make the threat a serious bodily injury. And even if it was, it doesn't make the use of a firearm in that context justified, given that the shot will have a tendency to lower the threat.
Okay, just a housekeeping thing. Gang, if you are riveted by the content that is happening...
Wait a second, wait. So someone's read the study and says that the study found an average of 0.29 seconds.
Yep. Sorry.
Okay.
So given that, given that, if that's the case, by your own logic, it's quite possible that this is unjustified if the first shot is justified, right? The other shots.
Okay. But
yes,
the maximum was 0.8 seconds, though.
Okay, but you went off the average when you were grilling me, right?
Yep. And
okay,
it's beyond reasonable doubt. So.
Okay. Okay. If anyone wants to, if I'm about to kick someone off, just real quick, if I'm about to kick someone off and you want to save them, you can give me $50 and I'll keep them in for a little bit.
No,
okay?
no. That was my mistake.
You're fine.
Bye.
But, I'll talk to you later, Ravenwall. Oh, I didn't even take him out. Oh. Yeah, let's try for brevity, gang. When we do these things, and just wham bam, thanking you, ma'am. Okay, bring in the next guy. What do you got?
Oh, what's up?
Hi.
What up, bro?
Hey, not much. Yeah, I guess I was watching Pisco like a week ago or something, and I saw one of your chatters asked you. I think it was just like, would you rather vote for Mitt Romney or Bernie Sanders for president? And you said Bernie Sanders without a doubt. I just want to hear. I want to hear the justification for that.
Yeah, I think Bernie Sanders is more aligned with me on policy. I think Bernie Sanders would nominate judges that are necessary to unskew a hyperly packed conservative court. I think Bernie Sanders is a Democrat, would run more as a Democrat, and his domestic policy would be similar to Joe Biden's. And I thought Joe Biden's domestic policy was quite good, and so on that, I think it's much preferable.
So are you saying for the heavily packed court part, are we talking about now for that, or are we talking about back in, 2012 when Mitt Romney ran?
Well, the judges would be preferable in either of those conditions. So the mere, I guess it's what I'm saying now is like an additional factor, but at any point, I don't want conservative judges who are, bullshitters. So I guess you're correct that yes, even in 2012, that would persist.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I guess I'm concerned about the policy thing. I don't follow. It could be the case that maybe I find the justices, the appointments they make sufficient in some cases, but I have enough concerns about the policy things. Like he had some weird plan for the Federal Reserve to put farmers and consumers on it, and they're obviously not qualified. I'm concerned about the single payer healthcare. I don't think it's preferable, and I think if the U.S. were to do it, it would have a meaningful impact on pharmaceutical innovation and in terms of just added life years lost. That those effects can actually be fairly big. And I think some of his labor market policies too. I think a big reason. When I say I think, the studies that I've seen suggest that a big reason why the U.S. has a lot more tech innovation, for example, than Europe is because it's a lot easier to fire workers here. It's a lot easier to lay people off, and I'd be worried about losing that under the Bernie Sanders presidency.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that labor being weak in America is what leads to innovations in our country. We had a lot of great innovations, even like books like Abundance recognize this with government investment and public-private partnerships. Um, you know, uh, at a time when labor was stronger, there were all sorts of rapid economic development and growth in this country. Um, Labor has been getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker over the course of the last decades. Republicans have been targeting them with state laws, and federal laws have been weakened as well. I'm not convinced that we are better off as a result. I thought that Biden's policies supporting labor made sense and were good on single payer healthcare. I'm not convinced that our current status quo for healthcare and health insurance makes sense. Um, I would probably, all else equal, be more in favor currently of a public option. Um, and to the extent that he goes too far, I think he would have to, just like Obama had to do, find consensus with more conservative Democrats, and he doesn't have the ability, and would be reined in by more institutional courts. So, to the extent that there are massive economic implications to what his policies would do, I believe he would be moderated in a way that Trump is not moderated.
I agree with that. To be clear, that's why Mitt Romney was the hypothetical there. I'd vote for Bernie over Trump any day. To be clear,
but isn't the court enough? Like Romney would like fucking give us more originalist conservative judges who suck and who have partially led to the decline of our Constitution. And like for me, SCOTUS is enough. Even beyond that, he would improve our public social insurance. Maybe he would try to do single payer, but very unlikely he would actually achieve that. I just on policy, do you really support Romney more than Bernie?
So I'm not. Romney's a bit before my time, honestly. So my understanding is Romney has a reputation of being a fairly moderate Republican type dude. Like he supported Obamacare to some extent, right? Like that's my understanding of Romney's reputation. So I think there are going to be areas where I am aligned with him. Aligned with him there, simply because
Romney supports tax cuts, which I think in the current context have been disastrous. Romney supports socially conservative policies. Romney supports he's like a neocon. Romney has he in all senses I think would weaken our social insurance system. He would try to cut Medicaid. He would try to put in more work requirements for programs that a lot of people rely on in this country. And in general, I think that he would be beholden to the people who are everything wrong with this country and who try to extract rents from the American people. I don't think that Romney is like a good guy other than his stand on certain constitutional issues on January 6th on Trump corruption, but I don't think that just because he stood on that and is moderate with respect to Trumpism that we should consider him a moderate with respect to policy.
Sure. So I guess I'll say I think the Supreme Court things like that could be sufficient, at least in the context of an executive branch that is actively trying to get rid of every norm that exists. So I'll concede that that could totally be sufficient. I could see that argument for sure. I guess on the tax cuts, it's always going to be weird for me because technically I think I would support raising taxes just as a percent of GDP. But I want to do that as efficiently as possible. And I have issues with even the current Democratic strategy of doing that. And I have even more issues with Bernie's strategy of doing things like wealth taxes, which I think, to be clear, I don't think would be disastrous. I don't think the U.S. would fall, but I think would just be on net bad. Yeah.
I hear you on that. I just think that first of all, anything horrible that Bernie tried to do, even from 2012 perspective, and certainly onward, if he tried to implement a wealth tax, almost certainly going to get struck down by the conservative Supreme Court. Assuming it wouldn't, I think it would probably be supported by most of the country. And honestly, there's huge income disparities and huge wealth disparities in this country, and a lot of I think our current economic. You don't think that there's a huge amount of wealth disparity in the United
Depends
States?
what you mean by huge amount. So I think
relatively large compared to other countries, advanced countries.
That might be somewhat fair. obviously we have higher. I recognize we have higher inequality than Europe, but I think I don't think
Higher than
U.S.
years
inequality
past
is
as well.
I don't agree that much with that one. So I think if you look at just like post-tax and post-transfer income, and I particularly like the work of there's this economist David Splinter and Gerald Aughton. They have a lot of papers on this. They find like post tax income inequality, post-tax and transfer income inequality just has not meaningfully increased since 1963. I think if you look at for wealth inequality, if you include Social Security in measures of wealth inequality, which I believe you should, that also has not increased since around the 60s, around the 80s. I still think there are we should have a progressive tax system, and there are just instrumental gains from redistribution. And I think there's been an issue with increasing the bottom 20% of Americans or whatever. A lot of their income is government transfers, and that's not as salient to people, and that's not as personally meaningful as earning a larger market income. So I understand why people feel that way, but the data I've seen suggests that the gap is not super big or increasing, and then I don't know I'm not convinced that there are substantially negative effects from it as well.
I'm
to
gonna
the
let
extent that it
Pisco
has.
respond to that, and then you got one more thing, and then we're gonna cycle you
Yeah,
out.
I'll just say, as I sit here, I'm not prepared to discuss the wealth inequality and income inequality gap, and so I'll be interested in what you have to provide. My understanding was that it's not contested, but if it is contested, I would want to know more about it, and your contention as well that it doesn't cause problems. I know it's a different metric, but I know that there are claims that real wages have stagnated. I don't know how much that factors into our analysis either. But as I sit here, I guess I'm not prepared to rebut what you're saying. But please do send me what you have. I would be interested.
Yeah,
in
that's
it.
fine. Yeah, it's very much contested. There are a lot of replies on those papers, and I also don't think the real wage thing is true either. But we can talk about that later if you want.
Yeah, send it to me. Send it to me. I know that interests me.
Sure. Yeah. Just one last real quick thing, because I know I think you've said part of the reason you're more quote unquote autistic or whatever in debates now, it's because you've talked to Ask Yourself, right?
I think that some of the focus on getting semantic clarity, I think, has been helped by Avi and Ask Yourself, and I think it's been a godsend in my confidence that when I walk into these debates, I think so much chicanery is done with lack of semantic clarity by both the left and the right, and I just feel so empowered to walk into debates with my ideas, and if I don't understand what the other person is saying, to say so. So I don't know if that makes it more autistic. It bogs things down in semantics, I think, sometimes, but it's not because that's not the right thing to do. I think sometimes it depends on the context, obviously, but often I think it's because people are playing word games and are trying to hide ambiguities in equivocation and that kind of stuff.
I agree with that. I like the way you debate, to be clear, and I don't want to debate that. I'm just actually curious. I'm just curious if they've ever talked to you about the veganism thing, because I'm vegan as well.
I've never had that discussion on veganism specifically, but from the little I've heard of their debates, it sounds like a convincing argument, but I haven't spent a lot of time on it.
Okay, non-fon.
Dang, yeah, you should go vegan or offset. Okay. But yeah, appreciate it.
I'll talk to you later, non-fon. Thanks for calling in. Okay, brother?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, let me get through some of these super chat questions, then we'll get back to the live ones. $10 from Disbest. Pisco, do you think Hutch's framing of calling an ICE agent a police officer is problematic? If not, why?
I don't think it's that problematic in the context of self-defense. I know people are getting triggered because their notion is that these ICE officers don't have authority to do what they're doing anyway. They don't have authority to arrest people. But I just don't think that that's necessarily true. And it's just a shorthand to refer to the kind of standards that apply both to ICE agents and to police officers. And so I don't really think it's intentionally done to obscure something. I don't think that it's done to and other people understand it to be some sort of defense of ICE. So I think it's kind of ridiculous to soy about it. So I have no problem with the framing that Hutch has there.
Fair enough. $5 from Audacity to say, I have a question for Pisco, but I think it's been done over, so I'll just say you eat sniz and hope you feel better.
Okay. Thank you, man.
$5 from Bearded Pinecone. Pisco, at what point does an audience's culture stop being the streamer's responsibility, if ever?
It depends what you mean by responsibility. So we had this conversation with respect to my community, Destiny's community. To what extent do you have culpability or with your audience and stuff. And so I understand responsibility to refer to like moral culpability, to moral responsibility, to ethical responsibility. It's all for me part of saying the same thing. And I think that you have a reasonable moral culpability for how your audience is. And that is people's perspectives on that are going to change. But I don't think that we can get more specific with that without trying to get like other kinds of
Fair enough.
situations in front of us, right? So like if you're talking about with respect to harassment campaigns, with respect to snarking, you're going to have to give me more specific facts to tell you if I think that there's like an ethical breach towards curating your community.
Fair enough. $2 from General Grievous. It makes sense. Gibbs has the Imperial banner. LOL. Thank you for $2. $5 from Aliceness. You say you're not pedantic, but it took you over 5 minutes to answer my super chat. Can you explain any of your positions to a child younger than 10?
I like good stuff and I don't like bad stuff.
Based. $5 from Zodia TV. Tylenol detox, please. Okay, thank you for the $5. $20.
I might take a Tylenol soon.
That's fine. Do what you need. The pleb says, as a Pisco fan, my big problem is you fight so hard if people don't express their opinion perfectly. In a convo with Hutch, he used the word logically. You said you could logically think someone could jump to the moon. It triggered me.
Yeah, it triggered people because I think they think that that's like me trying to do a one-upmanship on Hutch. The reason I use a ridiculous hypothetical, I was purposely trying to make it ridiculous to clarify that our notions of possibility need to be grounded out and clarified, right? Like if all like when we say is it possible that Denim saw the chat, you need to just be clear what you mean. And if I just assume what Hutch means there, we'll run into problems. Either I'll say it's not possible and everyone will think that I'm insane because I'm assuming Hutch means like probable when he says possible, or I'll say it is possible and Hutch will go to town with this. Oh, so you admit like she probably saw it. And then I'll be like, no. When I said possible, I just meant logically possible. And everyone will accuse me of changing what I'm saying or going back on it. And so I think when you get triggered, it's because you don't realize what I'm doing. What I'm doing there is to try to be good faith. I'm trying to prevent in the future either of us from getting clipped out of context, to prevent the conversation from being fucked up. And I use a ridiculous hypothetical to clarify why it's important. And so I understand that triggered people to hear. And so I won't use the jump to the moon example anymore. But I promise you my goal was to try to clarify meaning so that we can have a better conversation. And I think it's a little bit upsetting to like hear so many people accuse me that I'm being like dishonest because I use a purposely ridiculous hypothetical.
Okay. $5 from Brian to say, how is labor weak when we pay more than all European countries? He means labor unions, not labor.
Labor, yeah. Like labor, the labor movement.
Okay. Let's bring on the next guest. Hi, you're live. Hello.
Yo.
Oh, hello there. I was just here to fuck around with the chat a little bit in backstage. My bad.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thanks, brother.
Fair enough. Hi, you're live.
Backstage. My bad.
Oh, what? My
mute
bad.
the
I
stream,
didn't know I was
buddy.
going to be up so soon. Oh, 1 second. Hold on.
Mute the fucking stream, bro.
Yeah, mute the stream, bro.
All right. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Yeah. So, I posed this question to Destiny when I was on Wick's panel, and he kind of just like ran away from this question, or he didn't continue to engage with it. So I was wondering if maybe you would. Like, is there any proof that the violence of the crowd on January 6th was part of a premeditated plan by Trump?
It depends what you mean by the violence of the crowd.
What the riot
that?
that broke out?
You getting into the Capitol grounds itself?
No, like when it became violent, yeah.
And by premeditation, you mean like anytime before the day in question?
Premeditated, yeah.
And by that, you mean before the day in
Whatever
question?
sense you want it, whatever sense you take it to mean.
Okay. So I think that there's not a great deal of evidence that there's a specific in premeditated intent
Just a
by
yes or no, by
Trump
the way,
with respect to what question?
to my question.
Repeat it one more time.
Okay, was there any evidence that the violence of the crowd was a part of a premeditated plan by Trump?
By Trump himself? Violence? You have to be specific. We just cashed out violence to mean the riot in the Capitol, right? And so we should be clear. So if you just say violence, the answer is the
thing
answer
that
is yes.
delayed. Yeah, the thing that delayed the vote. Yeah.
Okay. So with that, I don't think that there's a lot of good evidence that Trump specifically planned the riot.
Okay. So what? I don't know. It doesn't seem to like. The narrative doesn't seem to fit together without that. I mean, is it just a coincidence? I mean, or did he just MK Ultra a bunch of people all of a sudden to activate and become? I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get how they go hand in hand.
You don't get what? You don't get what?
I don't get how I don't get how the riot at the Capitol had anything to do with the other things that you guys were alleging is all part of the same plan by Trump to steal the election.
You understand why it's causally related, and that is true whether or not there's premeditation. Oh, so then I don't understand. Premeditation isn't.
Well, you did understand when you answered. You said no, so I think I got my answer.
Well, wait a second. You seem to be confused.
I'm not confused.
How? Well, no, I thought you just said I don't know how that fits. You were like saying I don't know how that fits with your other theories. Do you think there's any inconsistency?
I don't see how Trump is like guilty of that violence like happening. Are you attributing that to him? Is that that
in what
would
sense?
have to
with respect to incitement?
Yeah, like you would.
Yes,
wouldn't you have to say that you have proof of that being like a premeditated plan of his?
No, premeditation is not necessary for the standard of incitement. Yes or no?
So
Do you agree with that?
you're saying that he just did it on the spot, like he just figured it out on the spot and came together with that plan.
That's not what I said. I said
just want to know what the.
So I just want to be clear about what I said. I didn't say that. I said premeditation is not necessary for the standard of incitement. I'm asking, do you agree with that?
That's not what I'm asking, though. If it's all part of the same plan, then shouldn't the riot have been like a part of a premeditated plan? Like, was any of it premeditated?
Yes, there's seditious conspiracy that charges. Yes, there was premeditation.
Okay, so how is this conspiracy going to work absent the violence of the crowd that day?
They were the people who planned seditious conspiracy planned for violence. It required the violence, and they planned it. So yes, it just doesn't extend so far as the evidence shows to Trump that specific aspect of the conspiracy. He wasn't charged with seditious conspiracy because of the lack of evidence on that front.
Okay, great. So that means the whole thing falls apart.
Right? No, it doesn't mean that.
Oh well, I don't know how you explain where we are today, but seems that way.
What do you think falls apart?
You're in like the entire theory. It just seems like logically and legally it fell apart, and that's why we are in the place we are today with Trump serving another term.
Is it just your claim that Trump got off because he was elected president?
No, I'm just saying like there was a glaring weakness in this accusation, and I just kind of demonstrated by asking you. I just demonstrated it by asking you right now.
In virtue of no, the accusation didn't accuse him of that. They didn't accuse him of that.
Okay, well, it's kind of hard to.
Do you agree? Yes or no? They didn't accuse him of that.
It doesn't matter. It's a red herring.
Did they accuse him? Wait, no. So the accusation doesn't. The accusation doesn't fall apart if there was never an accusation with respect to what you're saying. Correct?
It does, because you just answered earlier that the violence was part of the plan. That you would have to find a way to delay the counting of the vote, and that the violence was the solution for that. Right?
No. The specifics of what you asked me about. So no, the specifics of what you asked me
I
about.
don't know. We could
was-
rewind back the tape, and you gave me a different answer.
So just to be clear, it isn't the case that the accusations against Trump fall apart. It isn't the case that the accusations against Trump fall apart merely because you didn't charge him with seditious conspiracy or even accuse him of it. Nothing falls apart.
Oh, okay, cool. Cool
Okay,
story.
you got anything
They-
else for him?
They,
or-
Okay,
never.
that's all I
actually-
got, Wick. Thanks for having me up.
Okay. So folks, so you know how stupid this guy is. He is claiming vindication because I have obviously agreed that the evidence of Trump partaking in the seditious conspiracy wasn't established. And you can know that because he wasn't charged with seditious conspiracy. And I think Jack Smith would have charged him if there was strong evidence that he committed seditious conspiracy. And so none of the accusations fall apart by virtue of that admission, because none of the conspiracies against Trump rely on that. And so because none of the accusations rely on the fact that he's trying to suss out, I'm not surprised that he had no success with Destiny, because I'm sure Destiny's aware of that as well. And so nothing has been undermined. And his appeal to the fact that Trump is in office is just another indication of bad faith, because of course that doesn't at all sort of reflect the nature of the accusations being false. It just reflects the fact that he was elected, and the DOJ has a policy not to continue on a case where there's a sitting president involved. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's the response.
Okay, well, let's bring on the next guy, see if he can do better. Zetsway, you are live. You're muted on your end.
There we
Oh,
go.
you go.
I guess I thought the deafening would also get me out. How's it going, Pisco?
What's up, bro?
I'm curious, like for the H3 thing, I've heard, because I've been watching some videos and stuff of you on it, but there's times like where it feels like an argument that like people bring to you or something you don't even feel strongly about, but then suddenly everyone wants to talk to you about it. Is it something you have strong feelings about? Is the actual like your position on the whole that it's improper purpose, or is it just something that like you have a feeling about and everyone wants to talk to you about?
When you say strong feeling about it, do I think it's like it's a horrible, like really bad ethical wrong that he did?
Like independent of other people asking about it, would you really be making videos about it, basically? Or are you kind of like, I'm over it, but everyone wants to ask me about it?
I don't think I would be talking nearly as much about it if people weren't bringing it up constantly. And I'm not making a lot of videos about it. I made like one or two, maybe 3 total over the course since it happened of actual videos, but most of them have been streams where it's open calls and people come in, or where there's an update to the case or something. But the answer to your question is no, I wouldn't be talking about it nearly as much unless if people weren't like saying he's a bad faith hack, he fell off, he's trying to get in with the tankies. It is probably influencing my coverage.
Yeah, gotcha. Because that's the thing, saying like, well, at least early in this conversation when you said that it's like a high bar for someone to show that they have a proper purpose. I guess I don't know if that was, you can clarify.
No,
for me,
low
but
bar,
you just-
low bar.
Okay, sorry.
Low
Then I
bar.
maybe either I misheard or I thought I heard like you said like it's a high bar to show proper purpose. I'm like, wouldn't we assume proper purpose and then we have to try and
No.
almost a presumption?
I think it's a high bar in the absence of a proper purpose, to say that we're going to justify the lawsuit. So I'm talking about a situation in which there is no proper purpose and only improper purposes, and nonetheless we think it's justified, right? That's what I'm talking about.
And then I think you discussed like the actual harms of it, saying like, so do you believe like what was done by the 3 defendants was not such that like you would set that aside? Because there's times where I would imagine there's times where someone has an improper purpose, but they're going against someone who did like a wrongful death or something. You're like, I don't really care. And you don't think it's that bad?
Here's where it would put me over the edge. If I was convinced that Denham's like wanted to cause physical harm to Ethan's family, I would say that probably overrides the improper purpose of the lawsuit.
Gotcha. Okay, then I guess can I ask where? I guess that's pretty understandable. Where do you think people are missing you? Like where it goes? Because at least the heated things I see regarding you, that seems like I don't know. I feel like people seem to put a more extreme stance on you. Why do you think people are like what they're assigning to you, like where you're trying to get in good with tankies or something? Why is that?
I have like a bunch of responses to that. The first is I think a lot of people aren't listening. This is evidenced by the fact that I've had so many people basically ask me whether I think the case is strong or not, when I basically say in every single, and I still see comments being like, he thinks it's a weak case, he thinks it's a frivolous case. And so I think that there's a large group of people who either aren't listening or don't care to listen. Then there's a group of people who think, well, because I took the position on the Hassan global entry thing, and that this kind of happened close in time. That there's like an easy explanation for those because both there is like a coherent explanation, by which I mean it makes sense to people that I would take those two positions to ingratiate myself with the lefty audience around a time when I was doing more streams with Aaron, for example, and where I was like talking shit about Schumer. And so I can understand. I'm not saying they're like that isn't something I should address. So I think part of it is that a lot of these opinions at least were stated close in time to each other, next to the Vanguard conversation. And so I'm not saying that everyone who got that impression is bad faith, but I think when you hear my explanation, whatever. And then there's a third group of people who don't give a fuck and they just take the view that if you're in favor of denims with respect to anything, and if you're against Ethan with respect to anything, you just are siding with the enemy. Same thing with the Hassan thing. And so it doesn't really matter so long as you, and it's the same kind of position they have when I criticize Biden's pardon, is me criticizing Biden's pardon of Hunter Biden is kind of like giving kudos to the enemy. And so that's something a traitor would do. And then ultimately, and the fourth group is a catch-all of people who think that like I betrayed Destiny and I'm a traitor to Destiny and that I just want to see Destiny fall, which is, I don't think that's true.
Okay. That's why anything, one last thing, anything else you got?
Sure, I guess, actually, no, I don't want to take any more time. I'll let you guys go. All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Appreciate
for coming by, man.
Bye.
Always a pleasure. Hello.
Yo.
Hi. What you got?
Hello. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here, I gotta pause the stream. Okay, so Pisco, I got a question for you. Yes or no, is The Last of Us the best post-apocalypse ever committed, rendered on TV, film, or media? Yes or no?
No.
No? So you're saying that you hate the idea of the clickers? You hate the
I
idea
like
of
the
the cordyceps virus? You hate the idea of the cordyceps virus?
No, I think it was a good show and I think it was a great game.
Oh, so you're saying you don't like the amazing sound design in The Last of Us Part 1. And it's the first game, too. The very first game.
It's really good sound design.
It's had some of the fucking best sound design of any game I've ever heard. Yes, it's a little bit unrealistic that like the tracers will fly out of the gun and you hear like a chirp even when you're like outdoors with a bullet like ricocheting off something when it shouldn't. But I mean, God, it's like
I think Last of Us 2 is better.
It sounds like that you hate oh my God, don't even get me started. Now you're actually intentionally triggering me. You're saying that The Last of Us 2 has a better story? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am.
Oh
and
my
better sound design.
What the fuck? A better sound design, yes. Better gameplay, yes. Better story, It actually feels like you're playing a fucking just a random event simulator where it's told entirely anachronistically. Like there's no structure to the story.
I thought there is a very defined structure. It's now I think that there are more like conveniences and more like time skips.
Contrivances. No, you're thinking contrivances. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Sorry, that is what I'm thinking. But in general, I was more engaged. I thought The Last of Us was a good story, but I thought it was very effective. The Last of Us 2. I'm disappointed that The Last of Us 2 show the structure is so different. I think it has to a little bit because of the medium, but I thought what they did with the game was it was too long of a game for sure. But I thought it was very impressive what they did. It surprised me and it engaged me. I thought it was memorable and good.
Yeah, the principal like fucking things that I have against The Last of Us Part 2, the game. I'm not talking about the TV show. I'm only stuck on season 1 of the TV show. But the game, it's like the pacing was so off, and there were so many plot contrivances. Here's just one. How after their confrontation on the third day with Abby, how the fuck, with a pregnant woman, a guy with his arm broken, a guy who got shot in the face, and a girl who got stabbed and beaten to death, how did they make it back to Jackson County without a horse or vehicle? It doesn't make any sense, and they just gloss over it like it's nothing.
I suspend my disbelief on that. I mean, I know that was fucked up and weird in terms of but the thing is that kind of shit happened in Game of Thrones in the first seasons too. And I just
that's more of like a season 7 thing where like all of a sudden they're at
No,
the wall,
no.
and then and like
Game of Thrones is like they're
without-
texting each other.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does feel like that. What I'm saying is I would permit that if not for the fact that The Last of Us Part 1 spoiled me with its adherence to internal consistency, fewer contrivances, and its realistic presentation. Like I can see past that in like Uncharted and shit, but in The Last of Us Part 2, I was expecting a story with few contrivances and a lot of like character development, and a lot of the character actions just patently don't make sense. Like in the first game, Ellie tells us straight up, she looks at the camera and she says, "Hello, player. My greatest fear is to be alone." And then, like, that's her throughout the first and second games. That's her characterization. And then at the end, okay, spoilers to any of the chatters. At the end of the fucking second game, what does she do? She abandons the only friend she has in life, which is Dina and like her baby JJ. While baby JJ and Dina are like crying in front of her, please don't go on this ridiculous suicidal revenge mission. Suicidal revenge mission. Yeah,
it makes sense, right? Because the
no,
game
it
is
doesn't.
about. Well, do you want to hear my opinion?
Sorry, I'm bad at interrupting. My bad.
That was Ellie. That was Ellie, right? Ellie was that person who wouldn't do that, and everyone. I think the writers are conscious of that, right? Everyone is saying, "Why are you doing this?" Right? Like, why are you doing this? But the story is about how grief and guilt can change a person and can make you into a monster, and can make you, this feeling of guilt can fundamentally cause you to do horrible things, and everything you valued, you start to destroy. So yeah, I think that was a very like chilling set of circumstances.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true, and you could also. Oh, sorry, I'm memeing. Okay, if you want me to kick me out, Wick, that's okay.
Okay.
I just have to principally. But before I go, I have to get this. I have to get this concession out of Pisco. You do believe that it is ridiculous after killing 800 people, wasting all of her friends, and betraying every good thing she had in her life. It was stupid at the end that she didn't follow through and kill the bitch, right?
No,
it is. That is silly. That is silly. Oh my god, that's the silliest thing in the world. Come on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. There's only so
Thank
much. Pisco, I love you. I just don't care about your video game takes. I'm
No,
gonna be
it's
real
okay.
with you.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
It's your show, my brother.
You all good? Mitty! Oh, he's deafened. Oh, there he is.
Nope,
Mitty,
here we
what
are.
you got?
Hi, Pisco. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm here to rehash the rehash of the rehash of the rehash of your debate with Hutch over the shutdown. If I could, I'm just going to walk through some sentences, and you might just agree with all of them. And at the end of all of this, you could just say, that's compatible with everything I've said so far, and we'll go our separate ways.
Okay.
Or actually, I'll start with a question. On a scale of a rock rolling down a hill in a math book to a Pachinko machine in real life, how predictive do you think the trends are for like the support of the lockdown?
I think my intuition.
Yeah.
I think 85%.
85%. Okay. Because I think what I'm getting at is not that you've said anything that I'm like, okay, like I disagree with you on like X, Y, and Z. I think the conversation tends to go in this direction where you're so trying to prove the point that I would, if it would work, go as long as we needed to get that political support versus, okay, where do you think that you mentioned, I think in this last one, where do you think the end of like where do you think the diminishing returns kick in for the shutdown? Do you think they kick in at all?
Diminishing returns based on the amount of months.
Yeah, like 6 months in, a year in. Like, do you feel like genuinely that the trends that we have now would be predictive, generally speaking, like over 50% like accurate to like a year from now?
I think it's almost like I don't know if it's the right thing as a parabola or something. Oh, I actually don't know. Like, it's not a parabola, but I think that it's increasing returns past a certain point and then diminishing returns. So I think that there's a point in time in which enough pain is happening and the rate of return increases until it's not, and until it doesn't, and it's more flat, and then you've just basically hit cap um dislike for Trump. So, but I think that there is a point in which the rate of people abandoning Trump increases for a time. I don't know what point that is. I couldn't predict it, but my intuition is a strong intuition that people will blame bad things happening to them from a governmental perspective on the people in power. And I don't have a reason, certainly, to think that the opposite would happen.
Yeah. Do we agree that for the most part, like a year-long government shutdown is a unprecedented event, and we don't have like pretext for what that would be, right?
I agree, it's unprecedented.
Yeah. So, and then I'd say, do you agree that like Democrats and Republicans have to win in different ways?
Yes, I do agree with
that. Do you think do you have like a quick answer to what you think those two ways are?
It's not just two, but I can give you some things that I think are different.
Yep.
I think that Republicans have a greater margin for error with respect to their the states in which they're strong. So in general, the states that are blue states and held by blue senators and House of Representatives, to the extent that Democrats are winning those seats, is by smaller margins than a lot of Republicans tend to win their seats for a bunch of structural reasons. I think that the primary system, they have a very strong influence by Trump to affect it, and so and their base doesn't really punish them for ideological inconsistencies or scandals. And so I think Democrats have to deal with a much more ephemeral base of support and a much more and they're open to attacks that Republicans aren't. And these are the kind of tropes that we're used to: crime, immigration, that kind of stuff. And so I think that Democrats basically, because of these structural reasons and because they're more amenable to accusations of extremism and et cetera than Republicans, they have to be like more cordial and more moderate than Republicans.
Okay, so would you agree or would you like resonate and think that there might be truth in the statement that if I were to just like give you the lead, I'd say that the idea that the theory of a future shutdown not working, even if there's like the blame is in whatever percent in favor of like people blaming the Trump administration, that there might be an asymmetric consequence to say that where Republicans, I would add a little bit on like Republicans being able to be very reactive. Like they're not necessarily a platform. Like they're not necessarily a like, hey, trust us and our platform and our blah, blah, blah. Like their political power or their political electoral force comes from reacting to things. And it's less about like, trust us, have ambition in us. It's very much like we're going to prevent the thing that's going to kill you. Whereas, and I would say, it's my opinion, that I think what we saw in 2024 was a sort of like a lack of enthusiasm and support, like in a positive sense, for the Democratic platform. And I don't think that those two, like I don't think that Republicans need to garner as much of a positive platform of trust and like then I would say that
I don't disagree with that, but I don't know why.
No, I have a question.
What is the?
I have a question for both of you, actually. Shutdown speaking, there is some rumors that Chuck Schumer is looking to do a shutdown over the ICE stuff come the January 30th. Would you be in support, and this is a question to both of you, would you be in support of a government shutdown led by the Democrats in order to defund ICE or decrease funding for ICE and such things?
I don't agree with the framing. The answer is yes, but I think that the framing is the Democrats should not fund the government should not vote to fund the government unless they get a deal. Sure. I think that's, and I would say the Republicans are the ones that are not funding the government and they're leading to the shutdown. But in general, I think that the prescription I have is for Democrats not to accept or to vote for any Republican bill that doesn't have their input in it.
Would you agree with that, Mitty?
As far as the question, I would say like the answer would be yes if the Democrats also more managing and providing a much better communication apparatus than they are, which I think they're moving in the direction of. Like, I think this point this year compared to last year, we've done more of that.
Well,
I think
I was skeptical of the shutdown that they did last time. However, politically, it seems to have gone in our favor. So whatever messaging apparatus we had in place then seems to have worked. Why wouldn't it work this time?
I'm skeptical of the difference between defund, because the question was defund ICE and
or decrease funding for ICE or refuse to fund ICE, whatever the right.
Yeah. If that's the headliner versus we're protecting your healthcare premium credits, I think
Okay, so you think
one just requires a little bit more of like an in-your-face messaging, like. But one of my biggest frustrations with the last election cycle was like I would bring up, like, I'd learn.
Yeah, how about this then? Just real quick. I don't mean to interrupt. Actually, I do. But if the messaging was like, we will refuse to fund the government and fund ICE unless we get a trial in the case of the Renee Good shooting, because it looks like they're not even going to bring the guy to trial. So that's what it's looking like. Do you think that it would be successful messaging, unsuccessful messaging? Why not?
I'm very practical in this. I think it depends on what they choose to say. I'm sure there are paths that could work. Just that, like, I think that, like, my frustrations with some of these like previous elections have just been that people like all know like X, Y, and Z fact because I'm like hyper into this, but then like when I talk to people IRL, like the average person, they don't know shit about anything. They're just like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know about. But like I talk to like the same sort of level of engagement Republican on the other side, and they're just so much easier. They can walk through like whatever points, even if they're intelligible or not. And I think that like that lack of like full cultural integration, I'm skeptical, but not against the idea of doing something around defunding ICE. But I don't. I feel like I'd be like, okay, let's take that very seriously. Let's have our messaging ready. Let's know what we're like. If the Republicans say this, if that's how they respond to it, then we know what we're going to say to that. And we know what we're going to put out to like at least some sort of like unified sense of messaging. I'm sure something around ICE definitely would work. I'm worried about the flank though. If you just say like, hey, we're going to reform,
I'm
gonna
curious
defund,
on Pisco's answer to that question too. Right?
Yeah, I don't have a problem putting that as part of the conversation. I think that the healthcare issue should also be included though, because I don't think that having like a kind of myopic focus on just the good trial, it's not going to be enforceable because Trump's not. They're just not going to do it. So, I don't think it looks as good for that to be your only argument. I do think that that those kinds of things though should be brought up and raised, and I think that it's a way to signal that Democrats' reasonableness in negotiation, and also to change the narrative on ICE even more than is happening. I think that we should keep attacking ICE from a political perspective and lowering its popularity as much as we can.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
what's
think they're
going to happen?
definitely
Minnie, I'm going to let you say your final questions or final points and things like that, and then just because of time, we'll have time for one more guest, and then we'll let poor Pisco get better. Right? He's struggling.
Thank you.
But go ahead, Minnie.
Yeah, in the response to that, like I do think like ICE needs to be a focus. I just really want to like what are we saying? How are we saying it? How is that message getting to the average person? I think that there is a winning strategy down that way. You just need to like know what that is. We did like you can't just like walk blindly into, hey, we're gonna defund ICE, and then you don't have all of the political like or whatever it be communication fall off into the rest of the country. I think you can turn a good strategy bad that way. But to just quickly, I'll like breeze through my through line. I think Pisco, when you say like 80%, I think that's a bit
85
optimistic. You said 85. I think it's a bit optimistic. I think that one, obviously, we both agreed that like a year-long shutdown, even like a 6-month-long shutdown, is like a completely unprecedented thing. I don't think that. Would you agree with the statement that like a 6-month-long shutdown probably is a different thing, a different kind of thing than a 1 or 2 month long shutdown?
I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Different kind of thing.
Like just like
same
what
thing.
Do you think that like from a subjective point of view, you would consider the difference more from like month 1 to like month 2, and then somewhere along the way it's like, okay, we need to reconsider how we're approaching. Like it's a different, like it kind of shifts in kind by the time you get to like 6 months to a year.
I don't have an intuition for that. My intuition is that the unpopularity will persist, and the worse the conditions get, the worse the approval of the administration. So my intuition is not that any amount of months fundamentally changes that calculus. Is it different in terms of the marginal effect? Almost certainly, yes. I think that there probably is a point at which there are diminishing returns, no doubt. But that is, that's all assumed, and I would rather have continued growth from the generic ballot perspective, even if it is diminishing returns, than something where I think that the alternative is growth, which is my view.
Okay,
Okay.
Minnie,
And then the
thank
last
you.
thing, I'll just bookend. I'll say, because I was saying earlier, I think the reason that the different goals of Republicans and Democrats matters, because if we're taking, if like it starts to turn into a universal sort of like everyone's angry at everybody, but Republicans are getting like 10% more, I think that Republicans are a little bit more resilient to that kind of loss of support. I think Trump in general is a not likable person. He doesn't garner support.
No, but it's all relative to it. They're all, it's a zero sum game, right? So everything is in relation to each other. So Trump's loss is our gain. And
I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that the Republicans will grin up and bear and vote for their person. And I think that we've seen in previous elections, I think Democrats, not Democrats, but I think that
Democrats need to fall in love. Republicans just need to fall in line.
Well, but just the idea that, like, I think that a lot of what characterized 2024 was a lack of cultural support across the board. I think the both sides are bad narrative is generally worse for Democrats than it is for Republicans. And I think that all kind of, I don't think we can ignore that.
Okay, thank you for calling in, Mitty. Always
appreciate you, bro.
Buddy.
Catch you later.
Okay, we'll do one more, and then we'll let you have some closing thoughts, and we'll let you go get.
Sure, yeah.
You're
I can go longer, whatever you want. No, I'm doing well.
You sure?
You can bring people in, bro.
You look sick, brother.
I'm good. Oh, you're saying I look bad? I'm good, bro.
Sick.
Let me take, you know what I'll take? I'll take an acetaminophen, and I'll take 2 ibuprofen, and I'm good. You can keep going, bro.
Okay.
However long you want.
Okay. Just making sure. Let's bring in the next guy then. I'll try to get, then in that pace, we're going to lock backstage. Backstage is locked. The people who are there, and we're going to try to get through all the people we got in line because they've waited in line. So we'll do that. We'll go quickly. We'll see what we can do. And if you change your mind and you can't do it, no shame, man. Let's get him.
I'm good.
Hello, you're live.
Hello.
Hey, Scratch. What
up, brother?
What up?
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing great.
What do you got for us?
So Pisco, you made a statement when you were talking with Connor about the Hunter Biden laptop situation about Alexander Smirnov, where basically Connor had laid out that there's justification for why the FBI would suggest like there'd be think there's a hack leak scenario about Burisma that they then inform these social media companies about. And you, on top of that, also brought up Alexander Smirnov, who at the time in June of 2020 was feeding the FBI false information about the Hunter Biden story as like more justification for why they would have thought there was a hack leak scenario.
Yeah, that's basis of belief. Yeah.
Yeah, to me, is that the indictment wasn't until 2024 for him, and the investigation was until 2022. So I don't know, like, how the FBI use him specifically as justification to tell social media companies.
Yeah, so the mere fact that an indictment, doesn't come out until years later, and that there isn't a basis to indict and to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, which might require them subpoenaing records of WhatsApp or whatever, doesn't mean that the FBI couldn't have an inclination that what is being said is false and comes from Russia. So I just don't view those as inconsistent. I'm not saying that I know for certain that that was the basis for them offering the advice to social media companies, but just that they were at the time receiving Russian disinformation relating to Burisma stories. Also, when Rudy Giuliani was soliciting Russian disinformation and meeting with these various different actors, Derpak, whatever their fucking name, I used to know all their names, in Ukraine and elsewhere. And so they were keeping an eye on it. It was in the impeachment story was happened in 2019, and the Smirnov is just like a coup de grace that I add there. I can't prove 100% that they had conscious awareness that it was Russian disinformation, but I think it's just part of an overall sense of the character of what was happening from the Russian perspective. And this is a possibility for why they would be aware of that. And it's at least just as valid, if not more valid, the possibility that what they were trying to do by warning social media companies was to implicitly incept them to censor the New York Post story, which I think is preposterous. They couldn't have predicted that Giuliani would have done that, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the overall narrative that with the Giuliani stuff is going on and the fact that Burisma got hacked in late 2019 by the Russians previously would build enough justification alone for FBI, and specifically that piece of evidence, Smirnov, that I don't think is good justification, right? An investigation that starts 2 years after the fact and indictment comes out 4 years after the fact, I just don't see that as a strong indication that they knew about it. But yeah, the overall narrative, I don't.
They knew about that. They knew that Russia was pushing this Burisma story. No, they definitely knew that.
Smirnov was lying to them. Yeah, specifically. Not that they didn't know they were pushing the Burisma story.
I think the fact that the DOJ did not did not end up indicting or doing any kind of investigatory act with respect to the allegations of bribery towards Hunter or Joe at a time when they were specifically funneling for those stories. I mean, Bill Barr created a pathway for which these claims could be laundered. The fact that they didn't take action with respect to it seems to suggest they didn't believe it. And in my opinion, I'm not saying that it's I can prove what's in the FBI's head, but it's just one of many reasons why the FBI would be aware that Russia is trying to push this story through sanctioned Russian-aligned Ukrainian politicians, through Russian politicians themselves, through the former prosecutor general Shokin, who was making similar claims, through the actual conversation between Trump and Zelensky and the efforts from Giuliani to Lutsenko, for which there was contemporaneous reporting. There was internal conversations in the State Department as well as the Department of Justice. And so, yeah, do I know for certain that they knew Smirnov was lying then? No, I can't prove that, but it's just one of the pieces of evidence of the general awareness of these claims in 2019 and 2020.
Okay.
What else you got?
That's it. Bring up the next person.
Scratch.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Appreciate you,
coming
brother.
in, brother. Okay. Okay, let's get the next guy.
Hell yeah.
What you doing, brother? Hello.
Hello.
Hi. You're live.
Can you just give me 1 second to pee? You guys just talk real quick. I'm just gonna pee.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
Well, now that
I'll be
he's
right back.
gone. Okay.
Anyway,
Do you think he's a sitter when he pisses, or do you think he stands up? Do you think it's to the right, to the left? What do you think, man?
I think you got to work on your background, bro.
What's wrong with it?
I mean, it's fine. It's great. I just think you got to build it out more, and you got to get more rooftop lighting. You know what I mean?
Rooftop? I don't know what that means. Rooftop lighting. What do you mean?
Well, so ceiling lighting. You see how you have the Warhammer figures in the background?
There's literally lights on my ceiling right now. There's
yeah, but do you know what a fill light is?
No, I have no idea.
All right, well, look into a fill light.
I will.
Also, question.
Sure.
Jeb's the fucking worst.
I thought he was good content.
I mean, well, yeah, just because he's good content, did you like him?
I think he's fine as a person. Yeah, I have no problem with Jeb 10.
All right, good enough.
The reason I like him is because he makes all my arguments look better. So there you go. Go ahead. Ask your question to Pisco.
All right, Pisco.
Hit me.
I got two questions. One, how do you feel about all of the arguments when it comes to the legality of Renee Nicole Good? I haven't necessarily been following everything. Just, did you think it was legal, or did you think it was moral, or
to do what?
kill her.
I think it was illegal and murder, and I think murder generally is immoral.
Valid.
Okay. Is that it he had? Is that all? Oh, fair enough. Next guy, I guess.
Let's go.
Hello. That was a quickie. I didn't kick him out. What's up, brother?
What's up, brother?
Or sister, I guess. I don't know.
Oh,
Don't know.
hello. First
Yo.
time being on.
Hell yeah.
I have a question. It concerns Trump.
Those are my favorite
I think
questions.
okay, I think he's gone completely rogue, and my question is, what would be a reform so a next person can't abuse the presidential power like that? What would be a reform?
Yeah, there are some structural reforms I would take. It's a really, really good question. And ultimately, I'll give you like my real answer though. But the structural reforms I would propose are changing or eliminating the pardon power. I would propose getting in Supreme Court justices who are undoing this vision of the unitary executive, or even passing constitutional reforms to explicitly contradict it, to explicitly undo the fake criminal immunity. I would put in provisions to allow for more judicial review of executive actions. I would
Can I
make it easy.
interject?
Yes, you can.
Would you be? Do you know the governing systems of Europe? For example, like France
I'm not an
or
expert.
Germany?
I understand France has a lower house, and they have a strong presidency, kind of modeled a little bit on America, but also different.
They have a president and a prime minister.
Right.
And would that be like a thing you imagine for America, where you have two people, like one president who is in charge of the army and somewhat has ceremonial activities to do, and I don't know the word, and like a prime minister or chancellor who is in charge of foreign policy, security, and so on?
I'm not sure. I don't think that's a big reason for our issues, is having this
it
split
would
between the head of
limit
the government and the head of state.
But it would limit somewhat the power between the two.
Yeah, I understand that that there is a argument that I agree with it, that the presidency should have its powers limited. I would do it through sort of direct checks on the president's authority, as opposed. That's my inclination, as opposed to splitting up head of government, head of state. I just don't think it's necessary, and keep it in our tradition. And we kind of the problem is America is a country, and this is my ultimate answer. It's hard to have structures that survive horribly corrupt people. There's a people problem. And the truth is, Trump has the grasp he has over the Republican Party, and that gives him a great deal of institutional control, regardless of how we split that power up. So these are all things that, I agree that there are things that you could do that lower the power, that give more checks on it. But fundamentally, I think there's a people problem, that electing Trump is a bad decision. And unfortunately, I don't know how we prevent bad people from getting into good places without having, like, I don't know, a more informed electorate or something. And I'm not convinced on this head of government, head of state thing being the end all be all. I mean, look at France right now. Macron is like in the toilet approval ratings, and Le Pen is rising. So I'm not sure.
Let me make like a good example of it. In my country, we have like a president. He's he gets elected by the people. He needs a what's it called? More than 60% majority to be elected.
A super majority to get elected. I think that doing voting reforms actually, I would agree with that. So if there's some sort of ranked choice voting, or
there are like 7 candidates, and if none of the candidates get over 60%, there will be a
runoff.
one-on-one. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be more in favor of a runoff system or a ranked choice voting system. I think that would be a huge improvement.
But hear me out. This president has, when he gets elected, he has he's the commander of the army, first of all, and he can appoint the chancellor or the prime minister, who is in this system in charge of foreign policy and security and so on.
But it's
So
kind of
he,
honorific, isn't it? It's kind of honorific.
yeah, but it's he has the power also to what's it called, to fire them.
Yeah, he has the technical authority too, but for all it's almost like the queen.
He has not only the technical, he can do it.
That's what I mean by technical. He can do it, but the question is like,
and he does it.
So he in Germany they use that power with regularity.
I'm not from Germany. I'm from. Austria,
I'm sorry. Where? Oh, my
Austria.
bad. So the Austrian president will dissolve, even if the government is able to pass stuff.
I mean, it's somewhat they coordinate, but he has the power to do it.
But so does the Queen of England, right? Where the king can fire the prime minister, but he just doesn't, and because they coordinate, and whenever the parties are the ones who run everything.
I'm not so sure about it, but when you have some like a rogue prime minister or a rogue chancellor, he can dissolve his cabinet, so to speak, and call for a new election.
Yeah, like the Republican Party right now has the technical authority to impeach and remove Trump, and what is the?
I'm not so the expert, but I think hasn't he was impeached. So what happened? Nothing changed.
Right. The Senate didn't exercise its authority. What I mean to say is just having someone with the legal authority to do it doesn't mean that they will do it. And I don't have a reason to think that if we had this kind of split in the head of state, head of government, that they would actually exercise that authority to kick Trump out, and that wouldn't cause massive issues, in our country.
It would be an issue with the people. But I mean, you would save the country. You can restore stability in some sense.
Is that what's working out in France and in Germany and all these places where the authoritarian right is rising?
We have a right wing rising, and because of this role, the president had the choice to. I'm so bad with the words. He had the choice to select the one party with the building of the cabinet. Do you understand what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll think about it. I'm not convinced, but I'm open to it.
So he had the choice. Like the right wing party became first, but he chose to select the second strongest party, the Conservative Party, with building the cabinet and building the the coalition, so to speak.
Okay.
No, I think so. I think sometimes monarchies can have moderating influences. I'm somewhat convinced that the United Kingdom monarchy has something of a moderating influence, but I'm not convinced that it would have such an effect in America, where we don't have that kind of tradition of royalty, and we explicitly reject nobility, and where we don't split up the system. I think that it would be tough to have that implement that reform. And in our country, I think overall the problem is one of messaging, one of populism. And even countries where they have these kind of parliamentary systems or splits between the head of state and head of government, they're not immune to these kinds of trends. I'm not totally convinced that it would help, and I would be curious.
I mean,
you should
reforms. Look into it. Really,
Okay.
it's really interesting.
Yeah, thank you for calling in, and I hope you have a great day. Okay, man.
Always love you.
Great night.
True. Time zones, they're a thing. £5, I should say, sorry, from Riz, what the fuck, to say, would the violence have occurred had Trump not acted as he did?
The answer is no.
Yeah, pretty easy. Static Hair for $10. This is for Pisco. In your Hutch debate on H3, you said Ethan was lying when calling Casey Tron's apology genuine. How did you claim that without acknowledging Ethan could be subject to a non-disparagement clause?
Well, whether he lies doesn't depend on whether he signed a non-disparagement clause. So they're just not related, right? So the fact that he could be sued if he disparages, we don't know the details of whether there's a non-disparagement clause, doesn't affect whether he lied or not. So you're basically saying he had good reason to lie to be in compliance with his contractual obligations, but that doesn't refute that he did lie. And also, I don't think it's necessary for him to lie. He could have just shut the fuck up.
Fair enough. $5 from Tristan Thomas. I'm 33. Would you recommend becoming a lawyer? And do you think I will increase my chances of becoming a member of Congress?
Not sure about the Congress part. I think you should be a lawyer if you want to practice law. That's what my advice is for people who ask the question. If your goal is to practice law, you should be a lawyer. And if it's not your goal to practice law, I don't understand those people. Like there are people who I was in study groups with in law school who are like, yeah, I don't really want to practice law, but I'm doing this for X, Y, or Z reason. Sometimes there is a kind of subfield or specialty that they want to go into, which makes sense. Or they want to be like a member of the board where they want, like, where they have legal experience. But in general, I don't get it.
Okay. £5 from Riz to say, assuming Democrats take the House in the midterms, should they impeach Trump? Should they only
Yes.
do it if they take the Senate too?
No.
Okay.
They should impeach him. They should slow down. It's a game of time. And impeachment keeps things in the news, gives you plenty of opportunity to bring shit up. They should do it on like the Epstein files law, or they could do it on the myriad corrupt abuses of power that are happening. And so absolutely they should.
Okay. $10 from Alishness. Sure, he's sick. He went to a Republican event where the people there surely open-mouth coughed on the entire venue since they don't believe in masks unless you're ice. In that case, masks suddenly work. So
I didn't want to look like Taylor Lorenz, and so I didn't wear them. I'm just kidding.
$5 from AK Batozai. Wick, can you ask Pisco? I can. How he feels about approval voting specifically, not rank choice.
Approval voting.
Yeah, I don't know the difference between approval voting and rank.
I'm not sure if I know what that is. Maybe I'm stupid. I don't know what that is. I'll Google it real quick. Approval voting.
Okay, while you do, I'll bring on the next guy.
Is a single winner rated voting system where voters can approve of as many candidates as they like instead of choosing one. I don't have a view on it. I haven't seen where it's used or what the results are, but I'm open to it.
Sure. Okay, welcome to the show. What you got?
You guys able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about my voice. I'm also pretty sick. So I guess in Pisco, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I've heard you state this. I know I've heard Destiny and Wick state this.
Mm-hmm.
That there is no reason to believe that shooting a driver will stop a moving vehicle. And that therefore it shouldn't count as
in that
self-defense.
case. No, sorry. That there's no reason to believe that shooting that woman right there would prevent the threat, which is purporting to justify the use of force.
There wasn't enough.
I've heard that more generalized by like Wick and Destiny into like every case, but
so I think eventually shooting someone will cause the car to stop. I presume, because it'll either crash or I don't know, they'll stop putting on the gas pedal. So my claim is more limited. It's not that it has no tendency to ever stop it. It just in the specific instance, it wouldn't stop the claimed threat, which purports to justify the use of force.
Okay, so in your case, it's specific to that situation.
And just to clarify my stance, like yes, over a significant enough distance, that's true. But if you're talking like 10 feet, 20 feet, even like 30 or 40 feet, there is a likely chance that it will just cause them to hit the gas, the dead foot on the gas, and just zoom, right? So,
which is presumably why there are policies against this kind of thing, except in certain cases, is because like they didn't just randomly make up those policies. They didn't just have a bunch of policies in a hat. Like, oh, we'll just like randomly decide to have this policy against shooting people in cars, except in these cases. Presumably, it's because it has something to do with the safety of a car whose driver is incapacitated.
Right. No, I don't disagree with that. I just think so. For instance, like Wick, what you were saying, that the reason I'm bringing it up is in policies, it specifically states that it would count as self-defense for an officer to shoot someone who's moving, but they have to meet certain circumstances, like they couldn't move out of the way.
Always.
Things like that.
Yeah. If
Always,
at any
yeah.
time you can avoid the danger by simply stepping to the side and there's no risk to the community, then I think that that's the move, right?
I'm not sure about that. Well, that's the move. Yes, I would agree that that's usually the move.
That's what you should
But
do.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say that it necessarily implies a legal duty to do so.
Okay.
I'm not convinced of that. But that's a different question.
So in the case of Renee Good, I think even for instance, like counterpoints, and I don't remember the guy's name. Was it Jeb or Jed? Yeah. Stated that he made a poor decision by moving in front of the vehicle in the first place. But stated the reaction gap as the reason why he could have pulled his gun and shot her, at least with the first shot being justified.
You say could. When you say could, you mean legally justified, right?
Yeah, legally justified. Because at the time he was in front of the car, he may not have realized her moving the wheel.
That's an outstanding question, just so people are aware from the Supreme Court perspective, to what extent an officer putting themselves in an unreasonably dangerous situation bears on the objective reasonability test. They haven't resolved it yet, and it's not part of my analysis. For my analysis, I'm not assuming any legal standard which isn't actually in force at this point, or which hasn't been decided by the Supreme Court. Even though I do think it should bear, I think that the analysis is totality of circumstances, and so I think objective reasonability does bear on like what officers do to unreasonably put themselves in risks. But I'm not claiming that that's what I'm relying on, because the Supreme Court hasn't decided it, and I don't want to claim a standard that hasn't been decided.
So in the case where I think he clearly violated policy and at the very least should lose his job. I think if the administration actually cared about how ICE enforces things, they should absolutely fire him for putting himself in that situation. I don't know about extending it to murder. I know that's your position. What is the case for murder versus simply it was lawful but shouldn't have happened?
Well, if it's lawful, it's by definition not murder. So I take the view that it wasn't lawful, and therefore I can't reasonably say its lawfulness. The only thing I'm talking about is whether it should have happened. So my claim goes to both. It shouldn't have happened, and it was illegal. It's because I don't take the view that it was lawful. I don't take the view that it was. It's almost circular there, right? I don't think it's legal. Why do I take the view that it's murder? I take the view that it's murder because he did cause the death of a human being. Agreed.
I don't think it's fully on him. I mean, she did choose to drive the car.
No, I mean,
correct?
factually, he caused the result, right?
He shot, yes.
Yeah. So,
but
in other words, he's both the proximate cause and but-for cause of the death of this human being. Correct. We'll get into justification, but we're not there yet.
You're gonna have to. I'm not a lawyer, so you're gonna have to explain.
Okay. So
the difference between proximate cause.
So crimes have elements, and one type of element that a crime can have is known as a result element, and murder has as one of its element a result element, and that is causing the death of a human being. That's not the only element to murder; it's one of them. And I don't think people will have any sort of so. For example, in the George Floyd case, there was actually a disagreement about whether Officer Chauvin caused the death of Floyd. People were saying it was fentanyl. People were saying it was because of other stuff, a heart attack maybe. And so causation was an issue there. I'm just saying that's not the case here. Regardless of whether the use of force was justified, this police officer did in fact cause her death. He shot her in the head.
Yes, he was the direct cause of that. Yeah.
All right, so that's element one. The other element of murder is with malice aforethought. It's a term of art that references the common law. Usually malice will be accomplished by some amount of intentionality. That is, you intended to kill this person, or you are practically certain that death would occur. So those are ways to suffice malice. Now, it's not exactly coextensive with intention. There can be times in which you're intentional and it's not malice. But in general, those are circumstances under which there's a heat of passion, or there's a extreme emotional disturbance, or let's say that like you're on drugs and so you didn't know what you were doing, like you're on like some medication for which you couldn't, like, you didn't cause yourself to be intoxicated. There were just like some unpredictable reaction, and so we're not going to hold you, even though you intended to kill someone in that state. We're going to hold you to, not malicious killing. But here, we're not in one of those exceptions, and so the mens rea of malice would be accomplished in this case by intention. That's my contention, at least. And the only question would be, therefore, if it's justified, right? Because the killing wouldn't be malicious, or you can either consider justification its own element or part of the malicious inquiry. But I consider it a separate element that he intended to kill her, therefore malice, because we're not in another one of those categories. He did kill her, and so the only question is whether or not we're justified in use of force. And so, because
what
I
was
think
the
we're not
evidence that he intended to kill her,
or was practically certain that death would occur. Shooting someone in the head is a situation in which you're practically certain that death would occur. Agreed?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean. So, for instance, I mean, if I'm in the case of self-defense, I'm not intending to kill the person. The intention is to stop the threat, right?
No,
Like,
I understand. I understand the difference between
we recognize that.
Whether it's your conscious object to kill them or you're practically certain that death will result. I'm telling you, either will suffice for me and for the purposes of whether something is murder, right? Assuming that there's no justification. If you shoot someone in the head, I'm like, I just wanted to end the threat. I didn't want to kill them. Well, regardless, we can call your practical certainty, even if it's not your conscious object, will suffice for our mens rea there. Right? You agree with that?
At the same time, when would there ever be a case for self-defense not being murder? If, for instance, like, I'm going to use
third
lethal
thing,
force,
justification.
I'm pretty sure that someone's going to die if I shoot him with a gun. But like
the third, the lack of any justification. We're getting to that. He did intend or was practically certain that death would result as a result of his conduct, right?
I guess you could probably say that.
Yes. Okay.
I did.
So I'm not saying that all killings are not justified. There's this whole other thing called justification as a defense. And even then, the state will probably have a burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it wasn't justified. I think that's the case in Minnesota. So I'm not changing the burdens. I'm not doing anything weird like that. I'm just laying out the elements. Element one, in terms of the result element, satisfied. In terms of mens rea, satisfied, contingent on the action being unjustified. And that's when we get into the use of force being authorized by law or being self-defense. So I'm just pointing out that, like, there shouldn't really be a dispute on the mental state or the result element. The only question is whether the use of force is justified. And because I don't think it was justified, it's murder. That's why it's murder.
Okay. And your reason for not thinking it's justified is he just should have moved out of the way. There's no possible other solution that he perceived that she was going to run him over and reacted.
I'm about to get into the justification analysis, but I just want to pause for real quick so people can understand the difference in the Chauvin case. In the Chauvin case, I actually don't think that there's good evidence that Chauvin knew or was intending to kill this person or was practically certain that death would occur. He was convicted on a theory of reckless murder, where malice is implied by depraved conduct without any concern for human life. But that would be a situation in which the theory of murder doesn't rely on intention or practical certainty, but it relies instead on gross recklessness. Just so people are aware of how that would factor in. You can have murder without intention or knowledge. Okay, so why is it not justified? It's not justified because under the Minnesota standard for use of force, which adopts the Supreme Court standards as elaborated in various case law, the test of objective reasonableness occurs, and that we're guided by precedent which suggests that it's only justified to use deadly force in response to an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death, and to use force such as necessary to prevent that death. And because I don't think either A, that there was a qualifying threat, or B, that the use of force was reasonably necessary to prevent such threat, I don't think it's justified.
You don't think that the car could have killed him if he wasn't able to move out of the way?
What do you mean by could have?
Like, it wouldn't have there's no possible way it could have caused great bodily harm or death if he hadn't been able to move out of the way.
By possible, do you mean mere possible? Merely possible?
What do you mean by merely possible versus like?
So, for example, logical possibility. I could throw a water bottle at your head and it just randomly causes your death. So therefore, throwing a water bottle at someone's head, it's possible you could have died, right?
I think it's almost inevitable that if you get run over by a car, no matter the speed, great bodily harm will. I'm saying that it's almost inevitable. Like it's a great possibility that you're gonna.
So which one? almost inevitability or great possibility?
Either or. I don't know if it specifically matters.
I don't think either of them. I don't think that there was. I don't think either that it was a great possibility that death or serious bodily injury would occur, or that it was practically inevitable.
So you don't think that if you get hit by a car,
no, that's not what I said.
Going to cause. Then that's what I'm saying, though. So are you disagreeing?
In general,
with me?
so I would agree with you in general that getting hit by a car has a great likelihood to cause serious bodily injury or death. I would agree with that in general.
Okay. So what's the disagreement in this circumstance? If
assuming
he couldn't move out of the way.
For example, the nature of the circumstance, right? If I like threw out a door from a car that hit you, you know that's a car hitting you on purpose, right? The person is using the car to hit you.
But very clearly, we're not talking about that. Very clearly, he's in front of the vehicle, and I'm already removing the condition that he would be able to move out of the way, right? So, assuming he could not move out of the way.
Yeah, no, not at that rate of speed, not at that angle, and not with the amount of body that where he was in the path of the car.
If I may,
and of course, wait, I want to just add one more thing.
Sure.
Why would I assume he couldn't move out of the car? I mean, that's obviously going to be part of my analysis. I don't know why we would hold that as though he couldn't.
No, because I'm using it as a hypothetical to get you to concede.
No, I'm not going to concede that. I'm not going to concede that even in the case in which he couldn't move out of the car, that they represented a serious.
You don't think a slow moving vehicle is a danger to cause great bodily harm?
Did I say that? No, I didn't say that.
You did. Well, I mean, you mentioned rate of speed and
just
the angle at which he's in front of the vehicle. Yeah.
Dear caller, can we acknowledge that he had, based on the evidence that we know, his cell cam footage that he recorded, that he had evidence to suggest strongly that he was not going to be the target of her vehicle. And the evidence that I would point to is she pulled the steering wheel to the right, which was in the opposite direction of him, not once, not twice, not thrice, but 4 times before the incident with the pulling the gun and the shooting and all that occurred, right? So if you have someone who is turning the wheel
I understand where you're going with this, Wick, but I want to establish first that, because I think this has come up multiple times in every discussion that I've seen about this, where people assert that vehicles even going at a slow speed are not going to be a cause of great bodily harm. But so what is the condition in particular? What is the condition that in particular, which one eliminates that it is a threat of great bodily harm?
It's the totality of circumstances, and I'm not identifying a particular one. Totality of circumstances.
Well, if you look at the totality of circumstances, there's obviously certain things that are going to weigh against other aspects of the circumstance, right? So which elements? So for the hypothetical, we're moving he couldn't move out of the way. What are the other circumstances that would assert that he was not at risk of great bodily harm, and that the officer himself would not have known?
Right. This is why I want. So I'm going to give you a bunch of reasons why my assessment is that.
And then
I do want to clarify.
Move on because we do have
sure. But I'm going to clarify a bunch of facts that lead me to believe that. But it is ultimately grounded in what the officer knew. So we're proposing a hypothetical where the officer knows that he can't get away. Just to be clear, right? Mm. It's not that he can't get away. It's that he knows he can't get away, right?
Sure.
Okay, got it. So I don't think that the situation in which he can't get away, in which he knows he can't get away, that a reasonable officer would think that his body's in risk of serious bodily injury or death, given the low rate of speed of the vehicle, the fact that the vehicle is turning away from him, his position in relation to the car. An objectively reasonable officer would know that. And given the fact that the woman doesn't appear to be, fucking crazed or anything, her general demeanor, and the fact that she executed like what's clearly a K-turn, and there's enough indicia, I think, that she's trying to get away. And so given that fact pattern, I think that at most an objectively reasonable officer would apprehend the possibility of being bumped.
She's obviously trying to flee the scene, right?
Yeah. That helps the case.
So, I mean, would it be unreasonable to assume that if someone's trying to flee the scene and you're in the way of the vehicle, that they might run over you?
If by might, do you mean it's logically possible they could?
Yeah, a reasonable person might assume.
So you have to be very careful with your what possibility means in this context, or might assume. You mean would assume, right? A reasonable person would assume. That's what you mean?
Yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that
because they run away, they're going to run you over.
If I'm in the way of the vehicle and the person is intending to run away and starts hitting the gas while I'm still in front of them.
No, I will grant. I just granted to you that what I think that an objective reasonable officer, given all the totality of circumstances in the situation in which they both couldn't get out of the path of the vehicle and they knew they couldn't get out of the path of the vehicle, would apprehend, the possibility of the likelihood of a bump. But I'm not saying that they would apprehend the likelihood that she would run them over, because I don't think that there's any chance of that.
How is there no chance if you're in the way of a vehicle of possibly getting pulled under the vehicle and run over?
Sorry,
you can't say that there's no chance of that happening.
Sorry. You're correct. It's hyperbole. Very low possibility of being run over.
I don't know where you're getting the assumption that it's incredibly low that could have happened, especially if the person is willing to continue to hit the gas.
Sorry. Just be very careful with language. Low likelihood that would have happened, right?
Why is that a low probability?
Given where he is in relation to the vehicle, given where the vehicle is turning.
Speed, momentum, force equals mass times acceleration, right? These are all the circumstances we have to need.
Do you think it was a high chance he would get run over, given if he didn't move and knew he couldn't move?
I'd have to review the video, but I think initially, because the thing is, he is moving to the side as this is happening.
We're doing your hypothetical. So
right.
Don't talk about the video.
Right. So given the hypothetical, if he does not move, which he does in the actual scenario, my position is he would have gotten run over.
He would have
because of the starting position when she begins to accelerate. The starting position of the vehicle does not instantly turn. It turns in an arc. It would have run him over.
Do you think bumping and running over are the same thing?
It wasn't going to be a bump. I don't know why you're asserting that it would have been a bump versus running over.
I'm asking you whether you conceptualize those as different things.
They are different things, yes. But why are you asserting one over the other?
Because I don't think that I think running over implies getting the tires to go over a part of your body, right?
Not just the tires, but the vehicle itself, because the average person is not just going to fit under the vehicle.
Is it a necessary condition? Is there a necessary condition for being run over that you either some significant part of your body goes under the car or the tires go over you? Some part of the car is going over you, right?
Yeah,
that's what it means to be run over.
It happens all the time. People get dragged under vehicles, even at slow speeds.
No, I understand that. At that angle, at that speed? I don't think so. What's the evidence of that?
I mean, I could probably pull up examples of it, of like children being run over by cars or things like that.
We're not talking about child. We're talking about
we're starting with the assumption when she first begins accelerating, he is not to the side of the vehicle.
Okay, so let's say I grant. So I agree. We're in your hypothetical world. Let's say I grant all of this and say yes, there's a decent chance that he would get run over. How does shooting her? How is that going to have any tendency to lower that threat?
That doesn't matter. It's a perceived threat.
No.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Why would an objectively reasonable officer?
As soon as there's a perceived threat of great bodily harm, he starts reacting by pulling his gun and shoots her.
You know what I'm getting at? Why would an objectively reasonable officer apprehend that shooting a woman in that context would have a tendency to lower the threat?
It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter to the legal precedent.
No, it does. What an objectively reasonable officer thinks is reasonably necessary to prevent a qualifying threat is the entirety of the analysis. So I'm asking you why.
Right, but if so in the hypothetical situation, he cannot get out of the way.
Yeah,
he has no other.
How does shooting her tend to prevent the threat?
Because it could possibly stop her from moving the vehicle.
No, wait. By could possibly, you mean it has a strong likelihood?
I'd say shooting a driver, it's less likely that a dead driver is going to accelerate than a driver who's currently accelerating.
Wait. No. But the threat we're talking about, it's already placed in. The car's going to keep moving. He's right next to you. If she dies, because the car doesn't have a dead man switch on it that as her as she's expiring, it just automatically stops the car. The car, because of inertia and physics, was going to keep moving, right?
Yeah, but if the entire car runs over you versus part of the car hitting you and possibly dragging you under a little bit, does that not create
we can
less
see in
risk
the
of great
event, just
bodily
real
harm?
quick, caller, we can see in the event that when he shot her, right, and she died, it caused her
The
to
car kept
accelerate
moving
more.
and accelerate.
Right, but that doesn't be okay. So do you agree or disagree?
happens.
Yes or no, Wick and Pisco. Do you agree or disagree that officers under current DOJ policy are allowed to shoot at a driver if they do not perceive any way to escape the situation?
Sure.
Okay, so that's all that matters.
Okay, but
no. But the question is, why would an objectively reasonable officer think that this would, in any respect, lower that tendency?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter to the test, right? Because you can look up I can just quote first of all, it's a constitutional standard, but ICE has restricted it even further. So if you look up the DHS force policy, and this should be obvious, by the way. It's so crazy that we're even like having this argument. But if you read the use of deadly force, it says that deadly force is only authorized when necessary, right?
When necessary. And what is the thing that makes it necessary? Under threat of perceived threat of great bodily harm
and the use of force having some
death.
tendency to prevent that, right?
And
Correct?
there is,
and secondly,
so
if I
why?
understand, maybe,
Okay,
hold on. Just
why
real quick,
in the
just
case?
real quick,
Why? No, Wick, shut up for a second. Shut up for a second. Why is it allowed under policy to shoot at a driver if you are unable to get out of the way, if there is no chance that it's going to stop the driver?
Because sometimes it is necessary, but just not here.
Like if someone was like, "I'm going to run over you and all your friends," and you know
then,
that
of
they're
course,
going to
it's
carry
necessary.
on after they've run you down to run over other community members, you can shoot them dead, even if it won't save you. It'll save the people you're protecting.
But Wick, it doesn't matter if there's other people or not.
You're missing
the standard
portion
is
of the
if
analysis.
the officer himself is at threat.
You're
It
missing over
doesn't
a
matter if
portion
there's
of
other
analysis.
people.
No. I mean, we can just you are ignoring the part that Wick is saying, but like we can just disprove this, right? So say for example that you're being shot by someone in the north direction, and you would agree in that situation bullets are flying towards the cop, right? And the cop is in that circumstance under a qualifying threat for the use of deadly force, correct?
Yes.
And in response to that deadly threat, he throws a grenade to the south because he's so anxious.
An irrelevant.
It's a hype. So is yours about him knowing he can't move when he obviously knows he can move and could move and did move. But just follow me, all right? I did your hypothetical, you do mine. Now, notwithstanding the fact that he's under a deadly threat, you would agree that use of force is not justified. Yes, correct or no?
Yes, it's unjustified.
And in virtue of what is it unjustified?
Because it's not directed towards the threat at all.
Right. So because throwing the grenade to the south has no tendency to prevent the qualifying threat. Agreed?
Yes, but I don't think you can prove that in the case of the vehicle coming directly at you that there is zero tendency that in the case of throwing a grenade to the south when the person's at the north, that's a 0% chance that it's going to end that threat.
So what? I'm not telling you need to have 100. This is the last thing I'll say, and we can give him a last word too. I'm not saying that you need to have like total 100% certainty that the thing will happen. I just have like the whole point of the DHS policy is to further limit as much as possible shooting at moving vehicles, precisely because we think that in general, doing these kinds of shots increases the chance of these kinds of threats, unless there's some reason to believe, they're intentionally trying to ram people or there's no other circumstances. But here, shooting the person has no tendency to lower the threat because the car is upon him, right? The car is upon him, and because of inertia and physics, it's going to keep moving. And an objectively reasonable person in their position would have no basis to think that this would tend to lower the threat. If anything, I think that an objectively reasonable officer in his position would tend to think that it increases the threat to himself and others.
So if you have no other possibility, and given that the
I'll let you have the
policy
last
is...
word, buddy. I'll let you have the last word, but in fact, it did increase the threat. Because we know from the video that after he shot her, the Renee Good careened into a parked vehicle. Thank
That's with
God no one
2020
was in the
hindsight,
way,
Wick.
and thank
That's with
God it
2020
wasn't.
hindsight. You don't take that into consideration.
No. He's just saying no. Stop. No. He's not saying because it happened, therefore a reasonable officer would think that. He's just saying look at what actually happened as some evidence that this what we're talking about.
And there are cases where shooting the driver stops the vehicle. Like
true, but in those cases, in the main run of cases, what we're talking about are situations like after a high speed chase, or where the person has evinced a clear desire to like target people, right? And in that case, shooting the driver would have a tendency to lower the threat, either because there's a general public threat of a kind that would be evinced by a high speed chase, or it's a kind of a threat with respect to their specific intention to run people over. But our contention is, in this case, there is no threat of that kind that would be perceived by an objectively reasonable officer. And the fact that the car kept going is some evidence to show that this kind of shit isn't impossible, that the car just stops because someone gets shot. In fact, oftentimes it's the opposite.
Okay, last word from you, and then we'll let you go, man.
Okay. Love you, Pisco. I think
yeah,
you're
love
awesome.
you too, bro.
I enjoy your legal breakdowns.
Thanks,
even
man.
though I disagree often.
Oh, that's
not
that's
a lawyer
cool. I
though.
appreciate
So
you.
I'm sure my opinion doesn't
Oh,
count
you.
for much.
Oh, you are.
Not a lawyer.
You're a lawyer.
So
He says
oh,
not.
not
no,
a
I'm
lawyer.
not. So it doesn't really mean much. But I do enjoy watching your content, and I'm sorry you got dragged into all of this drama stuff recently. I feel
Don't
like
worry
that
about
has
it.
been a good portion of your content, and I hate to see that.
We're moving on, but I appreciate you, man, and thank you for your contributions. No, it's a good thing to analyze, and I'm glad that you're thinking about it and you're making arguments.
Yeah, no, I think just like real quick, I don't think he was justified purely because of the fact that he moved in front of the vehicle himself. I think there is maybe an argument for he perceived great bodily harm and like the reaction gap he would have been able to shoot. But I think it's very possible that a jury would find him guilty. Like, I'm not arguing necessarily that he's innocent, but I think this doesn't get enough consideration from people, and it seems like it's very easily dismissed, especially for instance by like not to point fingers, Wick, but I feel like you throw that argument out a little bit too quickly.
The problem I have, if you're going to invoke my name here, is that I think the opposite is happening. People are dismissing the fact that he had a range of other options that I feel would be much more reasonable given the totality of circumstances that he saw, right? He engaged with both him and the wife before, right? And I'm going to quote, "Fine, I'm not mad at you, man." Like, very easy tones, very nothing threatening there, right? The fact that he could see clearly him, or her, I should say, Renee Good, spinning the wheel away from him, the fact that he was so close, right? And the fact that he actually did just get out of the way, right? It's very unclear he was even actually hit. And under those circumstances, in no way would he need to pull out his firearm even to justify any kind of force. His reaction should have been, right, in the reaction perception gap, to merely step out of the way. That would have been the far more reasonable thing to do. And so I can't speak to the legality of it like Pisco would, but when it comes to morality and what people should do in these situations, he acted grossly negligent in my opinion. And
he should have never, especially given the fact that he had a prior incident where he was dragged by a vehicle.
It tends to be
by doing something stupid with a
doing
vehicle.
constantly wrong.
He should have been fired after that first incident. He shouldn't have.
Well, can you agree with me? He should at least be fired.
Oh, 100. I already stated that. Yeah, I think 100% he should have been fired.
Okay.
I don't know if he would necessarily be found guilty. I would think it would be possible. I do have a quick question, Wick.
Quick, because I got more people, man. We gotta,
I know.
Gotta go.
How is it possible to get more involved with like your channel and like getting on like panels and things like that?
Oh,
do you
just
like
DM me with the. What you're gonna do is you're gonna DM me. You're gonna DM me the ideas you have. Like, hey, I want to argue about, I don't know, the Epstein files, and I have this stance on the Epstein files. And if it's an interesting topic, if it's something that you have an interesting stance on, I can more easily get people to argue with you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, my interests are typically more like foreign policy. I don't know how often you guys do that.
Yeah, if you want to talk about Iran,
He does it. Yeah.
Call in. Okay.
Cool.
Talk
All right.
later, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, brother. Later.
Okay.
Oh, we have some familiars. I see Kafka. I see
Yeah,
Zips.
There's a couple. Give me a second. Stardust wants to come in too, and I'm.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So Let's get Kafka first. Kafka. Oh,
my brother.
What's up?
Yo. You're coming in
Yeah.
quiet.
Am I? 1 second.
Oh no, now you're good. Now you're good.
Now you're fine.
Okay.
Whatever you did.
All right.
was
Sorry.
good.
I've been adjusting my setup a little bit recently, so feedback is good.
Hell yeah.
Hey guys, everybody's Kafka. I have been listening. It's been a great show. Pisco, I wanted to ask you some stuff, some kind of forward view stuff. I, as part of my Hopium crusade and fight against the jaded darkness of doomerism, have been trying to think about the things that we want to do whenever we get past this dark time. So I am starting. Let's say I've started a think tank. I've recently become unemployed, so I'm starting a think tank, and I want you to head my Project 2029 manifesto for King Gavin Newsom whenever he comes into power. Other than prosecuting Trump supporters and Trump and the admin and stuff, and undoing the Trump things that have happened, and obviously reinstating Merrick Garland as AG. Those things that I know you want. What do you see as kind of the affirmative, positive, like political action that you want to see coming out of a Trump term into a, let's say, Dem presidency? Let's say we've got both houses, maybe not super majority in both houses. We got both houses. We got a Dem president. What are your kind of 2029? What would you love to see? I heard eliminate power, pardon power, and judicial review of executive actions earlier, but
are we allowing these structural issues? Because as you noted, I think you previewed there, like my pet issues are all structural. It's like give the vote to Puerto Rico. It's give additional checks from the judiciary, pack the courts, this kind of stuff.
Okay, I'm down for a lot of that structural stuff. But I mean, I'm thinking like, do you have any like things that would like capture the voters? Right. I think those things are good. I think a certain amount of voters are going to love that. But like, is there any like big like, here is the positive case for Democrats other than just we are not an evil dictatorship? Do you have any like desires for that?
My intuition is that the abundance people have good intuitions themselves on, and not like that's some keen insight from them, but that essentially we need a shit ton more housing, we need a shit ton more clean energy, and we need to make things like healthcare and things that are what people day to day suffer and toil to pay for, to make them a lot more plentiful and easy for individuals to access. I don't know the right policy solution to that. I don't think that it's just inventing our way out of the issue. So I would start the way Zoran did. I think he's right in terms of housing policy. We just need to, and it needs to be fast. There needs to be a way to do it fast. I don't mean to get rid of all environmental checks. I think that shit is cooked, but to just simplify and narrow it when the government is working, and to massively increase government spending when it comes to these like projects, and just build homes as much as possible. And also to build with respect to clean energy as much as possible. So I don't know how we do that. I think it requires raising taxes, and I think it requires being inventive and being bold, but I'm not a policy guy. So unfortunately I don't have the panacea.
Well, that's fair. Well, then how about this? What if, let's say, similar question, but your ideal, I'm saying, okay, we've named Pisco the Supreme Court reform czar, and you get to rebuild the Supreme Court as you see would be best for the nation.
Yeah. I unfortunately, if I'm being realistic for a platform, I'm not going to be proposing amendments because I don't think those have any chance of working.
No.
In our
let's take that out. Let's just say, what is your, if you just had free reign, where do you see like the best SCOTUS?
For judicial, I would just add 3 seats to the Supreme Court under Democratic majority. And I would also amend the Judiciary Act of 1789 to explicitly include universal injunctions. I would increase, I would specifically incorporate and execute Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and be enforced either through Congress directly or through the judiciary. I would give more causes of action for ultra virus things done by the executive, and basically increase with I want to increase the potential when it comes to corruption for actors outside of the executive to take a role, and I want to undo a lot of the problematic decisions that the Supreme Court has done and rebalance the court after the unconscionable court packing by Trump.
Do you think that some kind of term limit or some kind of limit on a person's stay in the Supreme Court, do you think that's an appropriate thing that we need to bring in, or do you think that's something that is less important or maybe not necessary?
No, because I don't think it's constitutional.
But if you wouldn't argue against an amendment, like if there, you would say an amendment of doing that would be bad. You don't think that the idea of it is bad if we had the support, right?
Not sure. I'm pretty back and forth on it. I don't know.
Because I feel like to me, I would be okay with us not including them, but I would want much more specific and formal removals, like a path to removal, right? I think right now, just the vagueness of removing a Supreme Court justice is a heightened level of protection they don't deserve, right?
Well, there's a very sneaky way to do it, not through impeachment. You just pass a law undoing the Supreme Court justice's seat.
True.
And right. So I think that's sneaky. I think that's not in the spirit of the Constitution, but I do think it's probably legal to do. But I don't know if I would agree with that.
I don't know how. Yeah, I think that would be.
I don't know about that one, but okay.
You would undo it and then immediately after make a new one for a appointment, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think all we need to do though is not remove the other ones, just add new ones. Like what we care about is the partisan balance, and so I just don't even think we need to get into that. We can just add seats, but that is a way that you can be devious.
True, but so do you think that the partisan balance it would? But think about this though: the partisan balance is able to be extended for much longer, right? Because I think right now we had to get to an extreme amount of imbalance before serious reform was considered. But I mean, even before the Trump admin, we've been having a conservative, over representation on the Scotia for a while, and I feel like to me that as the country's views and partisanship might update. I'm not sure I see the value in maintaining an outdated partisan imbalance, right? Like if the nation is imbalanced in a way towards Democrats and liberals, let's say, and then later it changes to conservatives, right? What do you see as the value of us keeping that older imbalance in favor of what is maybe better reflective of the nation?
Well, I mean, I don't think that the court need reflect the partisan outlook of the nation. I think that the court is supposed to have some distance to the partisan inclinations of the nation. They're somewhat amenable to them. Basically, I think that the packing of the court is justified by two factors: A, to reverse the court packing of Trump, and by that I do mean court packing in the sense of doing an action which is contrary to either the stated, norms or the norms of a given institution, to add and affect the partisan balance of the court, right? It's within the legal authority of us to court pack, just like it was within the legal authority of Mitch McConnell to withhold hearing on Merrick Garland. And so that's what I take court packing to be. And I think in that context, it makes sense to reverse the court packing of Trump and also to increase the number of justices because we just need more personnel on the court. So those are the two reasons why I think we need to add seats to the Supreme Court. But I don't think it's for the reason of matching the political views of the country.
I see. So do you think, well, I think within that, then I have that brings you to a different question around norms.
Quickly, we are, running on time. So,
okay. I can make this my last one. I don't mind. As far as norms go and kind of the breaking of norms, that's been a huge discussion during this administration. Do you think that we should, like going forward for me, I feel like I at this point don't care about norms anymore unless they actually get codified. Like, where are you at that? Like for instance, like just the way that these Senate approval hearings are happening, right? At this point, it feels like if they want to break a law, I heard you talk about this earlier. If a bad person's in a good position, we can't do anything against it. But I still feel like codifying a lot of these norms that everybody just assumed would always be followed is an important thing. How do you think that's an important step we need to take then?
I think some norms are still worth preserving, even when the other side doesn't preserve them. An example of that is the non-politicization of the Department of Justice. So that is a norm I would uphold, even though the other side is violating it. But a lot of the norms that the other side violates, I think we have no choice but to respond in kind. So that is going to be norm specific, and I can't give you like a through line on all of them. It's just the norms that I think are like integral to the maintenance of our republic. And I think that no political prosecutions is one of them.
Sure, but like, last thing, real quick. Last thing. The ones that are so integral, don't you think that if they are so integral, they should be codified rather than remain as norms?
Some are hard to codify. Like, how do you codify no political prosecutions? It's not clear to me how that is easy to do. And to the extent that it will require some sort of oversight from some branch or something. And ultimately that branch is going to be politically accountable in some respect. And so it's kind of a hard problem to isolate in terms of political prosecutions. You can make it a crime to bring political prosecutions, but again, that would require a constitutional amendment or court packing or something.
Sure.
And I just think it's a tough issue to address with reform.
Beautiful. Thank you,
All right.
Kafka,
I'll
for
stop,
coming
Wick, I
in
promise.
and calling in. That's been a beautiful discussion. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, man. Best of luck.
Stardust viewers have paid me money to let her skip
put her
the
in the
line.
front of the line.
Sorry, Zetzway. Or
Yeah,
not
no
Zetzway,
worries.
Zip Zip. Zip Zip, we're gonna get you out last. You'll be the last guy, Zip Zip. But Stardust will come in first, and then we'll get Zip Zip. Will close us out. So this is what we're gonna do. Stardust.
Yo, what up, Star?
Let her undeafen. Let her realize she's in.
She gonna wear a banana suit?
I don't know.
Hello?
Hi.
Sorry, give me a
Hey, what up?
second. Give me 1 second here. Let me just. I'm not going to wear a banana suit.
No banana suit. The peel.
No banana suit.
Unpeeled or peeled or I don't know. Okay, ignore me. Go ahead.
Just one. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second here, and then I'll just
Been a while, Stardust. We haven't seen you in a minute.
It has been a while. Yeah. Okay. Nope, I did the wrong tab. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay.
We're chilling.
And then
welcome to tech support.
There's that.
Oh.
And then what up? And then last but not least.
Oh, I might have to give you a
I
roll if you
have
wanna share something. Give me a second. Make sure.
It looks like it's working.
Oh, it is.
I have a presentation. Okay.
Want us to watch stream?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
The Dear Pisco Please presentation. Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Okay. All right. So let me just preface this and say that that I want to preface this conversation to say that what I'm about to talk to you about, I'm not sure you're even aware about. It's not an indictment of your character or even your community's character specifically, but it is about somebody that I was known that it may be a prominent member of your community. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Okay.
Okay.
And then also, let me just also preface one thing. Over the years, I have been online. I have taken every type of abuse. And rolled with the punches because I just, it's it's part of being online, right? And also, it is part of some of the spaces that I've engaged in the past, right? You can't go into some of these spaces without expecting a certain amount of vitriol and abuse, right? But what I will say is, I do not expect this to come from progressives, and I do not expect them to engage in this type of very specific aggression. So let me break something down for the audience so they understand where I'm coming from, and just in case Pisco and Wick might not understand. Okay, all right. So the cow in Indian culture, I'm sure Pisco is a very educated man. I'm sure he understands this. But most people recognize the cow as being sacred in Hinduism. But beyond that, I'm not a Hindu, right? But beyond that, respect for cows is something that is a foundational pillar of Indian cultural identity. It's part of our psyche, right? Basically, beyond that, it is in rural Indian history, the cow was seen as the backbone of survival. It provided milk, dung for fuel and fertilizer, labor when plowing. And despite all that, the cow requires very little in return. And then another principle that the cow embodies is one of the most foundational principles of Indian culture, which is ahimsa, or non-injury, non-violence, right? The cow is the living embodiment of this principle. Cows are strong, they are large, but they don't use that to harm others. So even though I'm not Hindu, an attack on that can be significant to me, right? It's not just Hindu theology, it's like a subcontinental value. So as an Indian Muslim, you are raised in a culture where this animal represents the spirit of the land, right? But anyways, so on Christmas Eve, this person, Mr. Substance here, in response to something that I said on Twitter, responded to me with a severed cow head and severed cow legs. I know that this Substance person posts clips for several other content creators. I don't know those other content creators. I have an immense amount of respect for Pisco. I think he's very educated, very good at what he does, and I think he shares my values. And again, I normally would not even go to anybody about this, but it's not just words at this point. It is somebody sent me gore, and that is an escalation of rhetoric. I can give you some of the backstory. I made a joke, a 3-word joke. Incredible rebrand TBH when it was something about Cherry posted about God or whatever. He somebody else quote tweeted me. Then I said I have my own personal conflict with Cherry. Has nothing to do with Destiny or anybody in that space. I was friends with her for years before I was friends with Destiny. I wasn't even really that close with him, to be honest with you. But anyways,
what was the initial tweet? I'm sorry, I might have missed that. What was that in response to?
It was in response to Cherry saying something about like how God is good and all of that, right? And so I was a subtweet. I screenshotted it and I put incredible rebrand TBH. Then somebody quote tweeted that and said because Destiny retweeted that tweet that I'm like helping aid his image or whatever, even though my tweet was literally 3 words, had nothing to do with him. I don't choose who retweets my tweets. You know, I don't have control over that. Anyways, so then I said basically Cherry and I have our own issues prior to any of what you guys are talking about. And I'm allowed to be shitty in public about it if I want to, right? But I'm using my words, right? This guy says, yes, Starter, you are in fact allowed to be a petty and vile vindictive cunt on main if you want to. Truly brilliant stuff here. I replied, boo-hoo, I hurt your sensitive feelings. The response to that, I feel like, was a huge escalation to go from boo-hoo, I hurt your sensitive feelings, to sending me literal severed cow head and cow legs, right? So I'll explain this further, why this is targeted harassment, okay? It is discriminatory selection, right? This wasn't a random, he didn't pick this out of nowhere. It would be one thing if he sent me gore by itself and it wasn't targeted. We would still find that gross, but it wouldn't be this level. This wasn't like a random edgy meme he had laying around. He knew my background. He specifically sought out a mutilated cow, or he had one, and he sent it directly. He said he quote tweeted me because he knew I was Indian, right? That's all he knew. This is not, I didn't offend him on the basis of his God. It was just because I said that I hurt his feelings. I called him sensitive. So this moves from internet beef to being like a calculated, targeted thing against my identity. If he had sent this to anyone else, it would just be gross, right? Because if they didn't have my background, it would just be gross because it's just, severed cow head, but there is the
selection of the cow
added cultural.
was
Yeah.
you're saying that the selection of the cow was deliberate based on your identity, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's cultural weaponization. He took a symbol of peace, right? A cultural taboo, basically.
It'd be like sending a black person a picture of a cross on fire, right?
Well, I think it's a little bit worse than that because it's gore, right? It's just gore, right? But basically, I think he it's like you're sending what is an image of peace to somebody, but desecrating that, right?
Right.
And then obviously identity dehumanization. He has stepped over the line from going to just a normal conflict back and forth to using my identity, and that is fair game for him now. And it's not just that he's using my identity; he's saying like it's a fair target, and he's basically communicating that like that's what he feels about me, right? How else am I supposed to interpret that, right? How else am I supposed to interpret that when somebody is so mad at me, if somebody is so upset with me that they are willing to completely dehumanize me to the extent that it's not even just my sensibilities as a person of Indian origin, it's my sensibilities as a woman, right? Like what kind of man uses that kind of, it's like, this is common tactic, right?
So you think it's targeting you both because of your ethnic background and national background, but also because
I don't
you're a
know.
woman, right?
I don't know if it's intentionally targeted because I'm a woman. I just think that it's offensive to me as a woman,
Okay.
Yeah. But
Who is this, just to be clear, who is this person and how is it connected to Pisco specifically?
That I have been told that this person is like a member of his community. So, and I don't. Yeah.
I want to let you finish your presentation though. If or I don't know if you want me to respond yet.
If you think if they're not a member of your community, I'll just like stop here. That's fine. But yeah.
Well, so I'll respond on a few things. First, I do think that that's racist, and I'm sorry that's totally inappropriate. I don't think that should happen. I totally disavow sending gore of any kind, but certainly one which seems, I don't know what other reason there would be for it to be a cow. And it certainly crosses a line. That if that conduct occurred sort of, in any of my spaces, or indeed in my YouTube chat or in my Discord, that would be a bannable offense. It would totally be against the rules. And so I am really sorry that occurred. Like just because you take a view on a controversy, I don't think that it's justified to cross that line where we're getting into kind of more hateful rhetoric. And so I am.
And it wasn't even on that controversy, right? It wasn't even on that controversy. It was about a personal disagreement that I had with somebody, and it was just a 3-word joke, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I'm not commenting on the joke. Listen, I don't want to talk about like the whole drama,
Yeah.
like that specific drama, is in like case and situation is banned in my Discord.
Fair enough,
I
yeah.
recognize that Twitter handle because I do see that person clip things, and I think I follow them because they will like clip either moments of mine or they'll clip people and they're like so they're very active in clipping. I'm not sure if I've ever had a conversation with that person. I certainly never noticed them in my Discord or if they were there, and yeah, I don't know why they would I don't know why like this is awful that they would send you that shit, but yeah, no, I don't deny that they're part of my Discord because I just don't know if they are.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. And again, that's why I preface this with saying I don't know if you're even aware of this or even if I'm correct in this knowledge that I've been told, right? So I just wanted to, and I know that you're a good person. I just wanted to like finish, I guess, with it is I guess also just like it's a violation of norms to send somebody something like that, like in all my time online, I have been sent plenty of things like that, but to get it from somebody who is a progressive, somebody who I have seen tweet things that are like, oh, men who use violence to intimidate women should be condemned. I've seen that guy tweet that, but you're using a violent image to like what are you communicating to me? Am I supposed what am I supposed to get from that? You know, and it's just no normal person, and it's like antisocial behavior. You know,
Agreed, yeah.
and then and then there he said he did this apology, but I don't think the apology is good even, right? Like people were, it's okay because he apologized. I don't think so. I think the apology was terrible. It's self-centric. Like he focuses on how it affected him, how he debased himself, how it was a failure or not failure. It was like lowering his own standards, and he's more concerned about like his reputational damage than about like the harm he is inflicting on me or anybody of my origin who is looking at that, right? And then it's just he talks about what he did as being depraved, but doesn't even like label what it is, what he exactly did. You sent me an image of gore that was culturally targeted, you know? So I just feel like, it's just so that's that's basically my presentation. Yeah.
What do you think would have made this an acceptable apology if you would edit it?
I think he needs to acknowledge exactly what he did and acknowledge exactly how that
so
is
many terms. I sent you a picture of gore of animals.
I would say I sent you a highly inappropriate, violent image that was targeted based on your ethnic background. I shouldn't have done that.
You said that,
and
right? I do. Attacking on the basis of I'm not trying to like defend this guy, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
In terms of the apology,
I don't think it's specific. I don't think it's specific
It's not
enough. I think
specific
he's
enough.
down.
Okay.
I think he's minimizing it. He's because this is not just attacking me on the basis of my background. I'm used to that, right? If it were just mean comments, whatever, right? But it is escalated to where you are sending me violent images, right? That's a different line, you know? So
you would have liked to see more specificity, more connection to the harm it caused, and an acknowledgement. But he's using strong rhetoric like disgusting, depraved, debase. You're saying that
it feels when it's connected with the fact that it's all about him. The first part of it, where it's just about him. It seems like he's apologizing for debasing himself and not demeaning me.
Yeah.
You know,
I see that.
Yeah.
I see that. I think that it would have been a way better apology if he also included references to how it must have felt for you, as opposed to. I do think an apology necessitates a self look, because what is an apology? An apology is just like an expression of remorse, an expression of contrition, and so I think that it presupposes self reflection. And it is personal, and so I don't think that the sort of self-centered aspect of it is necessarily wrong. But I do think the failure to tailor it to like the things you must have felt, etc., and how you would have reacted to it, and why specifically, not just background, also like ethnic, racial background, whatever. I think the failure to have specifics makes it a less than optimal apology. I do think it is an unequivocal apology, but I will agree with you that it's not optimal.
Yeah. So this substance person is in your Discord, and they have like, let me see. They have like, they speak a lot in your Discord. There are about 3K messages from them. Yeah. I can send you just like the search result. Yeah.
Just so I'm clear, what are we asking Pisco for here?
I would ask that until this person like makes a more decent like apology, that they be outed from the community. I'm not saying forever, but like I don't know, I feel like a week at least, right? For that kind of behavior, right? Like sending somebody violent imagery, that's an escalation. Like any other person would maybe even feel that was a threat, right? Like you feel so negatively about me, so you feel I'm so low that you're justifying using a symbol from my culture towards me in violence, you know? So
So here's why. First of all, I think that you're making accurate points about what this attack was. I think it's an attack. I think that the apology is less than optimal. I think that it is racist, and I think that it is totally unacceptable. It crosses a threshold. Here's what I'm concerned about. It's like sort of off, and I think you knew where I'm going with this. It's kind of like off platform behavior. It's not happening in the community. And I'm concerned that if I set the precedent of fielding anytime like a racist or unjustified thing happens out in the world between two people, that I have to like adjudicate that, and
Mhm.
that it will be sort of maybe I'll be inundated with those kinds of requests where there's not a clear connection to the conduct that happens in my spaces, and that doing so will open the door to like, oh, they did this, they did that. Well, this was bad for Stardust to critique Cherry. And it just gets into a game of like, well, are we just saying that I have to have a rule, or I should enforce a rule that takes any complaint against any person that is even involved on the server? And so I'm asking, like, how do you think I should balance that?
So I think that when it's a bit different when it is let's say like bad behavior off platform, people being mean, versus somebody using somebody's specific ethnic background, their cultural background, and escalating it to the point of sending violent imagery and sending gore. Sending somebody gore is just antisocial behavior. It just is, right? I'm not asking you.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to police every single person who says something like mean outside of your Discord. But I do think when it is escalated to the point where they are sending violent imagery to me, and that violent imagery is symbolizing the desecration of a foundational principle to me, or a foundational principle to somebody, like I do feel like that there should be some sort of consequence there, right? Especially this person is not completely disconnected from you on Twitter. They are posting your clips and they are engaging with other creators, right?
I have no problem condemning this action, calling him out. I'll do it right now. Substances is fucked up. You should apologize further and clarify what the damage is. I think that it's really insane that you would do this. I know that you've apologized. I think that you should amend it. And I totally disavow the conduct. I think it's irresponsible. Just so that you're aware, I'm not like in communication with this person to clip from stuff, and so I know that he
Yeah,
clips. That's
they
why I
are
follow him.
though. They are like one of the highest tiers in your Discord though, and they do have over
Okay.
3K messages. Yeah, I sent you a
Okay.
couple of screenshots. Yeah.
So I've, I'm considering what you're going to say. I'm going to talk to my mod team, and we'll see if we think that there's a violation of the rule of our place, and perhaps there is. I'll take a look, and I'm not going to make a decision right now, as in the stream. But I've definitely heard you. I agree that it's horrible, and we'll take a look in the mod chat. And if I would ask people not to like debate it in the server. We're going to come to the decision we're going to come to. But in general, thank you for bringing it to my attention, and we'll definitely take it under advisement.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of the stream. See you guys
Thank
later.
you, and I appreciate you.
Yeah,
Have a good one.
Thanks for coming on, Stardust. That was she's gone. Not. So I know the substance guy, not from Discord, right, but from Twitter, and yeah, he's a fuckhead. I don't presume to tell other people what they do with their platforms, though, so not my business, frankly.
Appreciate it.
Let's bring on the next guy. This way.
What up, Zip?
Zip. Sorry, Z. These Z's are getting me weird.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's good, man?
Hello, what's going on? How are you?
Everything's chill, bro. We're all good here.
Been a good stream so far. A lot of good conversations.
Yeah, it's gone very different places.
Just wanted to. People have been saying it, but that substance person. Just to follow up with what Stardust said, I have seen that person in your Discord before. I don't know how active they are, but they were there one time that I was in a voice call. I think you were there too. But yeah, they were in that call.
And I can't confirm that
however many months ago.
he is orange. He's one of the first 10 people that show up in the Discord. Other than that, I don't know though. So go ahead.
Okay.
Hey, yeah. Which is that's not really what I can talk about, but yeah. Okay. My question was about one of the earlier callers. One of the idiots. You were asking them about a hypothetical, or I think you were making an analogy to the H3 lawsuit, about the what was the analogy? About suing to recover a slave. Back
Yeah.
at the time that whether they took issue with that sort of thing or not. I think the analysis or the analogy isn't apt, because I think in the case of suing to recover a slave, the reason that's bad, it's not because you're suing to recover your property. It's because the property in question is a slave, which is like immoral to own, or like slavery is immoral, right?
Yeah, I agree.
If we take the analogy to like intellectual property in the Ethan case, are you trying to suggest that intellectual property is like shouldn't exist, or is immoral, or is bad to
No, I'm not trying to suggest that. I don't
enforce or
think you
anything?
understood
Okay.
why I brought that example up, and I'm a little bit
Sure.
disappointed that you don't. Like, the point wasn't to say that owning slaves and copyright infringement are the same thing in terms of badness.
Sure,
or
sure. Of course
as-
not. Of course
so
not.
did you think I really meant that?
No, that's not what I thought you meant. I just thought it was a bad analogy. So I wanted to understand more what you meant. when you were
In
saying
virtue of what? In virtue of what do you think it was bad?
the analogy. Oh, because I didn't think it matched up
It's not-
on that
it's-
particular
it-
thing.
no,
So
first of all,
what I
it's
wanted
not an
to
analogy,
ask
it's a
was,
it's
do
a
you
hypothetical.
believe in intellectual property? Like that wasn't the part of the analogy that you were trying to make, right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, that was my question.
No,
Do
wait,
you,
did you think I
what
was
was the
trying to
purpose of
do
the
that?
analogy? I believe I remember.
No. Okay,
But yeah.
but you can't say it's bad if you don't understand why I'm using it, right? It's not bad then. If I'm not using it for the purpose, which would of course be ridiculous to say ownership of intellectual property is comparable in any respect to ownership of a person. If you agree that it's not even conceivable I could have meant that, how do you have a basis to believe the use
Oh,
of that
sorry.
example
When I
is
say
bad?
bad analogy, what I mean is that I don't think it's maybe there's a better word there besides bad. I don't think it was bad for you to make the analogy. I think it was maybe an inaccurate analogy. I don't think it maps on. I don't think it's analogous.
In what sense is it
So I wanted to know
inaccurate?
exactly what you meant that
What-
would make analogies.
I don't but no, but you're making a claim that it's inaccurate, right? You can not take you can just say I don't understand it. Can you explain it? But then don't say it's inaccurate if you don't have a basis
Well,
to make a claim.
I said I think it's not inaccurate. So if you think it is, maybe you
Virtue
can
of what
explain
do you think it's inaccurate?
because of what I just said. Because I don't think you were trying to say that intellectual property would be the same thing as slave ownership property.
Right. So in that sense,
I'm saying that I don't think you'd say that. So I think it was an inaccurate analogy.
well, because I wouldn't compare slavery and IP, therefore the hypothetical /
Because I think you do
analogy
believe in
is
intellectual property
inaccurate.
rights.
No, but maybe it's not a bad hypothetical or / inaccurate because I'm just trying to elicit a different point than when you think I'm trying to elicit. In which case, it wouldn't be bad or inaccurate. It would just be
Maybe.
getting at a different thing. Yeah. So the thing I'm getting at there isn't that the property right is the same in each respect. What I'm doing is pushing at the intuition that because a cause of action is strong, therefore it's ethically good. And he bit the bullet. And so the point was to say that there's a distinction between something being legally justified and something being ethically justified. He didn't seem to see that distinction. He just bit the bullet. And so therefore it was a good hypothetical to show the extremes of someone's position, namely that they would say that any lawsuit that was legally valid was therefore ethically valid or good.
Okay. I can understand
case,
then in that case. Yeah, I think
after that explanation, do you think
when I
you
brought up
agree it
the
was an
first thing,
effective hypothetical and not a bad
sure.
one? It's not
and I
inaccurate.
think whenever I first joined, I said that you would ask this hypothetical to an idiot because I don't know why the fuck he bit that bullet. It was really stupid.
Yeah, no, but that's what makes the hypothetical good because it's just it's not meant for people to reject it. People are supposed to say, of course, I would be against a legally valid case to get a fugitive slave. But that's not what's happening here. But that's just to establish a baseline to say, well, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's good. And so I go to a ridiculous hypothetical to try to show that that there's something else going on here. But if you just grant the ridiculous hypothetical and say it would still be good, then that's the reductio ad absurdum, and it's almost like the conversation's over.
And I think I agree with that. But well, for one thing, so for you, in both cases they're bad, but obviously they're bad for different reasons, right? Because slavery one is because slavery is bad in itself, whereas for the Ethan case, it's not because IP ownership is
Right,
bad.
they're different sides of the.
Sure.
It's different part of my burden framework. In the one case, it would be
Mhm.
legally valid, but there's such negative social consequences to enforcing it, and therefore the presumption works is overcome. Right. In the case of the overriding social
Right.
harm, but that slavery is. In the case of Ethan's lawsuit, it's the opposite. It's legally valid. No proper purpose under the law framework. So the burden is that, and we don't meet the burden to overcome the lack of proper purpose, and so it's the other side of it.
Sure. So in that case, maybe I shouldn't ask you the question. Maybe I should just pause on my own. But why do you think there is no proper purpose, or do you think because there's an absence of one, do you think I should bring one to you and you would argue against it, or do you have an answer for that?
The proper purposes under the copyright statute that I think are there don't map onto the fact pattern. It's because there's an absence of proper purpose, and because no one has convincingly demonstrated to me
Okay.
otherwise, I assume there's not.
Could the proper purpose be that he just wants recompense for his IP being stolen or
Yes.
used improperly?
Damages is a
And you
proper
think he
purpose.
does not desire that?
Yes, I don't think he desires it.
Okay, what if I said that he does desire it, and that's implicit in the
Nope.
fact that he's suing for it?
It's you're saying by virtue of suing someone you want damages, but that's not true.
How so?
That you care about it. Just because it's possible to receive damages,
Well, you need not.
or that you would get
do you
you
need
would
to
get
care
damages
about it,
doesn't.
or
Yeah, that's the purpose is the thing motivates someone, something that would cause someone to do a thing.
well, sure, but it's when I let me see. When I pick up my water bottle, it's because I wanted to take a drink, but I didn't want to pick up my water bottle. That's just what was happening. Like I wanted to take a drink, so I picked up my water bottle. That's
What am I
just
about
in
to do with
itself.
this
Do you think
Sunny
that
D?
doesn't
Am I
apply
going to
for?
drink it, or am I about to do anything more
Yeah,
nefarious?
right. So what's motivating you there? The purpose is to drink. Your conscious object is to quench your thirst. That's your purpose.
Sure, but should it matter that your improper purpose if you have like I guess I'm trying to get that we had somewhat of this debate the other fucking however many weeks ago. But I think it's implicit in the fact that he's suing and he wants damages in the suit. That therefore he must want the damages. No?
It's not. So it's not implicit that just because you seek damages that's
Or
what's
at least that's
motivating your
one of the
lawsuit.
things he wants, no?
Wait, so it's not it's not entailed, right? So just to let you understand, you would agree, wouldn't you, that just because one seeks damages doesn't mean that that's what's motivating a lawsuit?
No.
Is the recovery of damages.
But it could be one of the things that is
It could be,
motivating
but
a lawsuit.
it could be, by which we mean merely it
I think it
could.
necessarily is.
Okay, that's what I'm rejecting. Just because you do in fact seek damages doesn't mean that that's what motivates your lawsuit. Why do you disagree with that?
Because it's in the complaint. I want this. This is what I am asking the court to grant to me.
So the mere presence
Right?
of a prayer for damages means that that's what motivated the lawsuit?
Could you repeat that?
The mere existence of a prayer for damages and the prayer of relief, that is sufficient to demonstrate that what is desired and what motivates the filing of the lawsuit
Well,
is
it's
damages?
sufficient to demonstrate one of the things that is motivating the lawsuit. There could be
think
other
that that's
things, of course, but
I think that's incorrect. So for example, suppose that it's the Joker suing. He's like, yeah, like I don't care about the money. I'm just including in the prayer of relief money so that I can burn it. But I don't actually care about the money. That's not
but he
why
still
I'm
wants the money because he wants to burn it.
No, he's
He
saying
doesn't
I would
want the
bring the
money. He
lawsuit.
wants to send a message. It's about
Yeah,
sending
yeah.
a
So, like,
message.
so what he's saying is like I would sue even if I didn't get any money. The money isn't changing whether or not I would sue. That's the point.
Sure, but you.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Well, I guess maybe this is another thing, but when you sue, you don't necessarily want to win. But assuming that you're suing
Correct.
and you want to win, like one of the things you want is the damages or the result.
So just because it's something that you know will occur or you know that you're asking for doesn't mean that that's what's motivating the initial action. Does that make sense?
Sure, it's not the
Okay, so you
initial.
agree.
Sure, maybe it's not
So
motivating
there's
the
no
initial action, but
contradiction.
it's one
Me
of your
saying he's
motivations.
no, we just agreed, right? Like just because I grant that Ethan is asking for money doesn't mean that I believe that money motivated the lawsuit. In fact,
Sure,
he
but
explicitly disclaims that it does.
if I slip and fall on someone's property, what I want to get medical care. Okay, so how do I get medical care? Where I need to pay for it. How do I pay for it? Well, I'm going to sue the person whose property I was because it was the
you're
fault of
suing
one
to
of the
get
things.
damages so you can pay for medical care.
Sure, but it wasn't their motive. They weren't motivated by getting money from the other person. They wanted they wanted their injuries.
So here's the difference, right? So
healed.
here's the difference. Here's the difference. If you knew that he wouldn't get damages, right? If you knew to a certainty that there would be no pecuniary relief from suing the store from the slip and fall case, would that person sue? The answer is no.
Sure,
Okay.
but in this
So
case,
in this
and I
case,
know you agree because
Ethan is willing to,
believe in the legal merits.
loss.
That is one of the
Right.
things.
So Ethan is willing to take a loss in this case. It's different than the slip and fall case. You understand? He's probably on a loss in terms of his legal. Yeah, so it's not about making money.
Has he said? Well, it doesn't need to be about making money. It can be about.
He said it's not about damages.
It could be it could be there might be a difference between wanting to like make a net profit versus wanting to recoup damages, right?
Is there a difference between wanting to make net money and recovering damages?
He might not be when you say he's willing to take a loss here. I assume what you mean is maybe he's willing to spend the money on lawyers even if he might lose the case, or going to spend more money than he's going to recoup, right?
Right. So he's not worried about being made whole. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Even if you spend more on the lawsuit than you make back,
Okay,
you could
that's
still
fine.
be
That's
made
fine.
whole. No.
We're circling. That's why. Last point, and then Stardust missed something, and she wants to come back on and say one more thing.
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay.
We can talk later
well,
if you want.
Yeah, sure. Far be it from me to delay Stardust. I would love her to come back.
Donated.
Yeah. Okay, I think
we
just
can
because.
chat later.
Yeah, sure. We can set that up or whatever.
Yeah, no. Finish up. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Last word.
Yeah. Just because I think Ethan isn't interested in net profiting or whatever. I think it's still implicit by the fact that he wants the money. Whether the money is to send a message, whether it's to fuck with their livelihood, whether it's whatever, he still clearly wants the money from them, which would be part of the damages, which I think is just implicit in the fact that he's suing for the money.
Last thing I'll respond though is then there you would grant that someone who is bringing a copyright lawsuit for the same rationale, but just to fuck because of like an interpersonal relationship issue, the mere fact that that's still a proper purpose, right? Because anytime you ask for money, even if it's not what is like technically your conscious object, the fact that it's entailed in your lawsuit as presented would turn anything into a proper purpose by that logic, right? It swallows the
yeah,
rule.
But that's my belief.
Okay, but then you have a huge issue, and you have a huge fucking issue with your contention there, because then bringing a copyright lawsuit that contains a prayer for relief, so long as the case is strong, you're always going to defend it.
Cool.
Yeah. But then my if I think it's wrong, then my solution.
I'm throwing a flag.
Change the law.
You guys are just gonna keep going.
We'll talk later. Yeah, we'll talk
You're
later.
like fucking engines, okay? Like batteries, like the Energizer Bunny. You remember those?
We've been at this a long, many times.
And going, Zip. I love you, buddy, but we're gonna let you go.
I love you, Wick.
Later, brother. We'll talk soon.
Okay, Stardust, you missed something. You had something. Oh wait, give her a second. Okay, there she is. There's the star of the show. What you got?
Hey, sorry, 1 second. Just need to, okay, there we go. Camera back on. Okay, and then I just wanted to present some final evidence in my favor that this isn't just a one-off thing with this person. Sending that, obviously sending the gore was like an escalation, but it's not a one-off thing. Let's see here. Is it this one? No, it's not. It's give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. Oh, here it is.
Take your time.
it's not just a one-off thing with them. It's like personally, I'm not going to be offended by this, but in case this affects your mod decision or anything like that, there are several things of them just posting pictures of Indian people in response to things. You know, this one
Like
here,
racist joke, like a history of racist jokes and shit.
just basically, yeah, using Indians as like the punchline, which like normally by itself I don't care, but like them sending gore to me was like over the line, so I'm just gonna throw this in there as like backing evidence. That's all, you know.
And using like racial slurs, like I see there.
Oh yeah, using racial slurs, yeah, for sure, yeah.
That's useful to know, and
yeah.
thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Yeah, and I can send this to you as well. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Wow, what a time.
Okay, gang. I am exhausted, and I want to go to bed, and I got to do things. Well, probably not go to bed, but I got things to do. Pisco, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with us here at Wick TV and take on all comers. I thought it was very, very fun. Do you have any last words for chat?
I just want to say thank you guys for the support. I would appreciate you guys giving Wick TV a follow on YouTube, on all his platforms, following him on Twitter and X. And I just want to say I will continue to solicit feedback, solicit your opinions, and we really encourage, in my different spaces for people to speak out. Obviously, don't say racist things in my Discord and in the different various places that I'm at. But we really do appreciate people who disagree and that kind of stuff. So thank you. Wick, tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm talking to Chud Logic TV about the ice shooting, and so yeah, that'll be fun to do at 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Does
But
he
thank
disagree
so
with
much,
you?
Wick.
What's the deal with that?
I don't really. I think he does, but I don't really know what his deal is. I haven't like interrogated his views or like looked at his streams or anything.
Okay. Well, tune in 10 a.m. tomorrow. Check him out, gang. Links in my Discord. You can, not in my Discord. In my YouTube description. There's a link to his channel. You click on that link. You give him a subscribe or follow. And if you like this content, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. The last super chat, $20 from Alice Nista says, "Ban them, unban me. Fair trade right. Love you, Wick." Thank you, Alish, for the $20. Okay, wait, bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Later.
Okay. Now that they're gone. Stop this.